An entitled Karen literally throws a fit and tries to ruin my son's 5th birthday party, as she loses her mind when she finds out that we reserved 2 tables, as well as set up a bouncy castle against her wishes. Things got so bad that the cops ended up getting called after her group of people started a fist fight, putting me in one of the most awkward and honestly craziest situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I did all my due diligence to have my son's 5th birthday party under shaded benches at a public park. These are basically first come first serve, but can also be rented out if you really want to. I wanted to do a bouncy castle too and had to get a city permit just to allow it. So I reserved my 2 rows of benches under the 6-row awning and got there at about 6 o'clock in the morning just to make sure that I got an end row for easier access because it is a kids party, while also securing my 2 rows of tables. Well, another guy comes out of nowhere and starts setting up for his 1-year-old's birthday party and actually starts putting up ribbons and balloons and tablecloths on the 2 tables right behind me. This guy then asked me if I could watch his stuff real quick while he goes to the store for ice or something like that, because I guess he forgot to get something. I don't exactly remember what it was specifically, but regardless, I say to him, sure. I mean, I genuinely have nothing else to do while I'm waiting at the park, and I had to wait until noon for the party to even start. I did have my son with me because he wanted to come and play at the park and run around while we waited. And this is really important for the next part here. So the next thing I know is that my son is hysterically running towards me, and I'm freaking out because of his screams of terror. So a lady with her infant and toddler were at the playground, and she had a puppy on a leash. My son was running to the swings, and the dog was able to lunge out and bite him on the arm. And it's here that I found that he had an actual good puncture wound. So first I check on him and I make sure that he's okay, and once I do, I go find the said dog owner and I'm like, what in the world is going on? Why bring aggressive dogs to the park with kids running around? She also never even bothered to come to me either. I mean, I had to go to her and she was rushing to leave, but she was saying, oh, it's a puppy, he has his shots, and all this other crap. And while I was pissed, I will say her apologies and look of remorse led me to eventually just move on. Now, his wound wasn't worth like a doctor's trip or anything like that. I mean, it was minor, and this lady actually had shot records and we exchanged numbers, so I just let it go. And truly, I thought that's the worst that will happen today, but oh my god, I was so incredibly wrong. So me and my boy go back to the tables, and this new lady, who I will call Karen, and you will understand why pretty quickly, has suddenly arrived and was ripping all the decorations off the tables the guy asked me to watch. When I confronted her, she says that she reserved the tables and we all had to move. Well, it's here that I let her know that I too reserve tables, and only 2 rows can be reserved, and any that aren't are first come first serve. On top of that, there was a guy already here and he just left to grab something real quick. And with all the chaos of my son's ordeal that was around at the time, the guy finally got back. I then apologized for the Karen and his decorations that he literally right now is pulling out of the trash. She's pissed off because she thought she got all 6 rows of tables, and it's here that the insults start flying at this guy from her, plus the small group of people that showed up with her. I actually showed her the spot on our permits where it states 2 tables, and she's pissed off but kinda just let it go. Well, that is until the bounce house guy gets here and starts to actually set things up. Karen comes stomping over to me and she says to me, you can't have that here. But I look at her and I say, yes, you can. You just have to have a city permit to do it, which I absolutely do. The Karen then looked at me and said, no, I called the park and they said that you can't. But I responded back and said, yeah, you can. It even says that on their website. You have to get a city permit, which was like $100 to be able to set one up, and guess what? I did that. She then wanted to see said permit, but was being very rude from the get-go. So I said to her, lady, I don't have to prove anything to you. Now, at this point, the parties are in full swing, and she actually keeps trying to send her kids over to our bounce house. It's here that I tell her, I'm sorry, but I can't permit that. If one of your kids gets hurt, then I'm gonna be liable. So sorry, but that's not gonna happen. Now, I didn't do this, but I also probably should have mentioned that if she wasn't a total jerk to everybody, then maybe it would be a different story. But anyhow, this makes her over the top mad, which then prompts this Karen and her group to start hurling insults towards the middle table. She was more mad at me, I think, but they were closer, so they got her rage. Anyways, Karen and her entitled man get really nasty, and the next thing I know, there is a full-blown fist fight between the Karen's baby shower group and a 1-year-old birthday party group. And while it wasn't like the whole group fighting each other and instead just the husbands, it was still incredibly scary. Eventually, the cops got called and the kids were really scared. I then walk over and I said I'd give a statement to the police, where I explained the guy next to us didn't start it, but instead it was Karen and her group. Well, surprisingly, no one went to jail. But of course, Karen had the police check if I had the proper permits, and when all my stuff stayed because it was all legal, she finally backed down and stopped with the insults. But regardless, I still got these awful stares from her and pretty much anyone in her group the entire time we were there. Like, this entire scenario was crazy, and I will probably never forget this ever again in my entire life. Oh my gosh, imagine going to the park, trying to like have a good time for your 5-year-old son, only to then watch this lady start ripping down decorations, get in your face and scream at you, try to prevent you from setting things up, and then eventually get in a fight with the group next to you. Like, holy crap, you have some problems. It's also baffling to me that nobody went to jail and this lady wasn't kicked out of the park. Like seriously, this is the definition of public disturbance. Not to mention the fact that your son got bit by a dog. Like, dude, this has all gotta stop. Murphy's Law's in full effect. Somebody like reset the router. What's going on right now? So yeah, that Karen was crazy, and thankfully nobody got hurt besides your son getting bit by a dog, because this could have been way worse if the circumstances were just a little bit different. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for excluding my autistic son from a family vacation and choosing to leave him behind for a week, all because he ruined our last vacation? Because right now he is not taking it well, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my husband and I have 3 kids, and their ages are 11, 9, and 6. And this particular situation is about my 6-year-old son. We've been planning for a family vacation for a while, and this time we decided not to include him and have his grandparents care for him for a week. Now, you might be wondering the reason we are excluding him. Well, last year we went on a family vacation and he hated every bit of it and kept throwing tantrums and having meltdowns, all because things were different from what he was used to. He even ran off multiple times in the hotel, so we had to literally spend half the day just looking for him. Due to this, we couldn't do most of the activities that we had planned, and our other 2 children were also pretty disappointed due to this. This time though, we wanted to go to a similar place, mostly since we couldn't enjoy it last time, and we decided for his sake that it was best to leave him with his grandparents for a week so that his routine isn't majorly disrupted. For reference, my son has autism, and he struggles to adjust with changes and has meltdowns if anything goes differently. Since it was a different place, his safe foods weren't available either, and those that were available didn't taste the same, so he refused to eat them altogether. The only things he could eat were packaged snacks, and since we didn't have anything else, he had to live off of them the entire time. We had to cancel most of our plans because he would throw tantrums and have meltdowns very often. When we told our older children about our upcoming trip, our 9-year-old started crying and said that he didn't want to go because of what happened last time, and our 11-year-old said that she also wanted to stay with her grandparents. Well, when I told them that their brother would actually be staying behind with the grandparents, they seemed relieved and actually kind of excited. But when we told our 6-year-old about this, he did not take it well at all, and said that it was incredibly unfair for him. I reminded him of what happened last time, and he promised me that he would behave. But really, I don't want to make him miserable and the rest of us miss out on the trip due to him. I feel like it's best for everyone, including him, that he just doesn't come. But this is literally where I feel like I'm conflicted on our decision. I mentioned in a support forum for parents with autistic kids about leaving him behind, and I got so many comments calling me cruel and heartless, and that he deserves better parents. I even told his counselor about this, and even she told me that I was wrong, and that I should instead make accommodations. But I don't understand how I can make reasonable accommodations while enjoying the trip. The only place I know he won't be miserable is at home. I mean, we visited relatives' homes before, and he had meltdowns at things there and even damaged their property. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I do not think you're the jerk, because this is one of those situations where it's like, okay, I'm not going to sacrifice the enjoyment of my 2 oldest kids just for my youngest who needs a little bit extra help. And I'm not blaming the kid for having autism. Like, I can only imagine what that's like at that age, especially when you're struggling with changes and like going to different places. Like, he's only 6 years old, so I have a lot of sympathy for that, and it's like, I completely understand why he's not having a good time. But if you can't quite get it under control, then going on like separate vacations might be the plan. And I think a lot of people in the comments of this post have pretty much suggested that, like, if you plan some kind of separate, smaller vacation just for him, that might make up for this one situation and might be for the best. But if he really is causing a lot of problems and we can't look past it and it's just ruining pretty much everything, then yeah, I think you're making the best decision for the entire family by saying that he's going to sit out this one, but then maybe have another one in the future to try and make up for it. I think that's very fair, especially when you consider the circumstances that are pretty much going on in this story. I am so sick and tired of people thinking that my mom is a good person, especially when I consider the fact that my childhood was a nightmare because of her. And at this point, I'm so distraught over this, I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Alright, I want to start off by saying that I am so tired of false victim narratives and feeling like I'm less than a human. I'm tired of feeling treated like a bad investment, and I'm sick of feeling like I don't matter. I've recently been in therapy and I've been dealing with this with a professional. And before any of you go, oh, you've got mommy issues, I want you to read this before so you can cast your judgment accordingly. I'm a 33-year-old male, and I'm the firstborn child to very successful attorneys for parents. Now, to put it bluntly, my father is an idiot, and I've already written about him being a lost cause. But this time, I'm going to delve into a story and tell you about my mother. For a little bit of background about her, she immigrated to this country when she was 2 years old. She was a very hardworking woman and got into an Ivy League college, then became a very successful attorney. All of this is extremely admirable, and in many ways, I look up to her as an example of striving for your dreams. With that being said, behind those accomplishments, I got a very different person raising me and my siblings. My mother, when she punishes us, is a very draconian and Machiavellian person. I mean, she would be pretty sadistic, honestly. I would say she's a sociopath. I don't remember her being an emotional person. I remember as a kid, I would tell some jokes and just remember how she would just stare at me as if I wasted her time. The one time I remember her just absolutely laughing her head off was when we all thought that she was having a stroke. And I kid you not, one of the earliest memories was when I accidentally killed my brother's pet. My brother has severe autism and had a pet snake, and he was freaking out because it wouldn't close its jaw. And I thought that I was doing the right thing by walking up and closing its jaw. I then remember the snake going limp and my father confirming that it was dead. Mind you, I was just a child, and I did not know that what I did would have hurt the snake in any way, shape, or form, but my mother just didn't care. My younger brother then started tearing up and crying and mourning his pet, and then my mother rushed into my room, stared at me with evil eyes, and started screaming how she was going to ship me off to live with another family, that I was no longer her son. She screamed that I was this evil child, and the entire time I was crying, like non-stop tears rolling down my face. Again, mind you, I was still a child, and I seriously thought I was helping my brother and the snake. My mom actually sent me to therapy to deal with a child therapist, and ever since then, I've always felt like I was some sort of devil spawn in my mother's eyes, as if I was a Damien Thorne monster that she had the misfortune of bearing. Once the accounts are clear, I swear to God, I thought I was in a different version of Rosemary's Baby. I also honestly hated coming home as a kid, as I was an easy target. It wasn't an uncommon occurrence if crap wasn't going right in her life, where she would take her anger out not only on me, but my other siblings as well. I just so happened to be the greatest target of her chastisement because I was the eldest. To avoid this, I would usually sign up for after-school activities, football, rugby, debate team, a part-time job of any kind, whatever I could do to get away from her and those bad days that she has. Now, my sister, for the most part, was the golden child. She could have gotten away with anything. While my sister got designer clothing and had shopping trips for whatever she might need in a new wardrobe, I was expected, on the other hand, to take secondhand clothing and wouldn't even go on shopping trips with her, despite the fact that she was buying jeans for me. I mean, I remember having to wear jeans that were way too tight. I remember having to literally beg her to take us to get new clothing, and I swear I had an easier time pulling my own teeth out on those days. For the most part, I was expected to be a pushover, expected to just accept things the way they are and not throw a fit about it at all. My mother was very much the type of person who would say that children should be seen but not heard. But my siblings, on the other hand, if they needed something, they got it. It was always a freaking struggle for me. But the most awful incident happened when I was 14 years old. My parents convinced me to go with my friend and his father to a different state for winter break, despite the fact that I had reservations to do so. Well, the entire time, my friend's father bullied me. There wasn't a single day where he wouldn't stop giving me crap of any kind. It became worse because I met my friend's grandmother, who has listening problems and memory problems, and I gave her my name and she kept calling me by another name. And since I didn't want to be impolite whenever she called me by this other name, I decided I would just go ahead and respond. Well, as a result, my friend's dad kept calling me by that fake name, and it got so annoying to an extreme degree. When we finally got home after 2 weeks of nonstop bullying, my friend, his dad, and I were standing in the kitchen with my mother, my siblings, and a family friend. And it's here that my friend's dad thought it was funny to flick me behind the ear. At that point, I was fed up. I turned around and I yelled, "Stop!" And my mother simply walked up, tapped me on the shoulder, and whispered in my ear to go to my room. And I knew at that point my fate was sealed. While I was in my room, my friend's dad spun this image of me being a disrespectful and rude kid. He told my mother about the name calling, and my mother then called me back into the kitchen, where I sat down in front of everybody. My mother then asked me questions about the trip, and I told her that I didn't want to talk about it, but she said we were going to talk about it. As we got to the name calling part of things, she asked me what the name was, and I responded what the fake name was. Well, immediately she jumped at me and screamed, "Well, guess what? We're going to call you by that name for 24 hours. She then turned to my siblings and told them that they're going to call me by a fake name for the next 24 hours, and as everybody was screaming that name, the family friend was giving me a lecture. At this point, I was bawling my eyes out. 2 weeks of torture, and now I get picked on by my own family. I mean, I couldn't even hear what this family friend was saying because everything just seemed muffled after that. The mistreatment was so bad that even my friend's dad felt terrible. He tried to apologize to me, but I ended up just running away in the rain. I ended up under a bridge near my house and I just slept there. And the only reason I ended up home again was because a cop found me under the bridge and escorted me home. And I've got to be honest, to this day, this incident still gives me nightmares. As she raised us, she treated us like bad investments. Anytime we would have any criticisms against her or what she was doing, she would remind us that she spent money on us, and that basically, therefore, we had to shut up and obey her command. Anytime I had a legitimate concern, she would always shut me down with a very line of saying, "Oh, well, I spent a lot of money on you," and that automatically would trigger me to shut down the conversation and just pretend like the incident never happened. And in case you're still wondering, this happens even to this day. Well, in college, things got really dark and I had some very dark thoughts, if you know what I mean. My hatred for both of my parents escalated to such a degree that I thought ending it all would be the final middle finger to both of them. I told my mom and she feigned concern. However, a few days later, she went right back to her verbally awful self and yelled at me over why the house wasn't clean at her standard. Then, a few years back, my sister graduated from law school and the family decided to host a graduation party over there. My dad rented out an Airbnb and I was told that it would be a family event. Well, my dad later informed me on the phone that my mother took the liberty of inviting her hairstylist and their partner to the Airbnb as well. And as a result, I was relegated to the couch. I was very close to not going, but I didn't want to disappoint my sister. And in hindsight, I definitely should not have gone. By the time I landed, it was a 12-hour journey and I was dead tired. My parents and my sister picked me up from the airport, and instead of going straight to the house where a couch was waiting for me, we went to Costco instead. And I waited in the parking lot for what felt like hours. Once we were done with Costco, we went to my sister's apartment because she wanted to get ready for a photo shoot. So instead of me napping for the 2 hours that I was there, I was up listening to my mom and my sister talking while music was playing in the background. When we finally reached the Airbnb and I just wanted to sleep on the couch, my mom was instead socializing with her hairstylist and friend. I then stayed up for another 2 hours until people finally decided to sleep. And my God, I hated that vacation. And truly, these are some of the biggest examples of where I'm pissed off at my mother. I am currently in therapy discussing issues with a professional, and funnily enough, her jaw drops with some of the stories I have to tell. But the thing that pisses me off about this whole situation is that people talk to me about how she's such a great person and how she's super kind. In my mind though, I think of all those terrible memories, and I look at her clients, which are mostly juveniles, because she works in juvenile dependency, and I think if they only knew the type of person that she truly is. When I try to approach her with all the issues that I have with her, she always talks about how much money she spent on me and that I'm just an ungrateful person. Don't get me wrong, we didn't struggle growing up. I was grateful and appreciative of my upbringing, just definitely not the way she treated me or my siblings. All I want is for her to understand my side of things, but she refuses to listen even to this day. I honestly don't think even trying to maintain a relationship with her is worth it, and I can actually count on one hand the times in the past 10 years that she's even called me to see how I was doing, because this situation is honestly so messy and I just don't know what to do. Okay, this is so heavy. Your mom is super awful. Like, your parents did not like you at all growing up, and that is terrible. I'm so sorry for that. But there's one thing you need to know about people like this, and I really mean this, because I don't think she will ever come to understand where you're coming from. She will always try to twist it around, she'll always have something to say, and I'm honestly convinced that she will do whatever it takes to avoid taking responsibility altogether. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not convinced based on what you described that she will ever come to be like, oh, you're right, I understand what you're going through. And like, especially when it comes to like an apology of some kind, like that's definitely not gonna happen. Because seriously, let's think about the person we're dealing with right now. She treated you like the stepchild that nobody wanted. She was mistreating you constantly. She called you by some fake name just to mock you. Anytime you cried or were upset, she would like turn it against you. Like, this is a series of very awful mistreatments towards you from someone who definitely is a sociopath. Like, I think you clocked that correctly early on. Like, she is crazy. It's either that or she's a narcissist, but I'm sure those are like distant cousins if you think about it. So I think it's probably important to know that you are dealing with a very emotionally empty person. Like, this is a husk of a human being who does not feel any emotion. She doesn't care about how you're feeling or what you're doing. I mean, when you were in college, she barely cared about the fact that you were thinking about ending it all, which I'm really glad you're alive, by the way. Like, that sounds really scary, and I can only imagine going through that, like, truly. But in my opinion, and this is truly just my opinion, when someone shows you who they are, it is very important to believe them. That's like a life motto I go through, dude. When someone's like treating me like garbage and they're showing that, yeah, they don't care about about me, then in my opinion, it's my responsibility to be like, okay, this is how they actually think about me. This is the way they treat me on a daily basis. This is how they treated me growing up in this instance. And I need to believe this and say, this is how they really are. And based on what you're describing, your mom does not sound like a good person at all. She blatantly pushed you to the side and bullied you all throughout your childhood. She made you feel like crap and essentially just showered your siblings with love and gave you absolutely nothing. So I can say confidently, if I was in your shoes or even close to this kind of situation, and I found myself stuck in this kind of garbage, where I'm trying to find some kind of middle ground for them to understand where I'm coming from, while also unpacking the crap that my parents put me through, like if that was me, I absolutely would be like, okay, I'm going no contact with these people. And I don't say that lightly, and honestly, that's just what I would do. For me, there's no point in going back and forth with people who legitimately do not care about my existence, because it's disrespectful to me and my own self-dignity to have to deal with someone like that, only to then have to navigate their stupid excuses as to why they treated me like crap. Like your mom's only excuse is like, well, we spent a lot of money on you, so you just have to deal with it. And it's like, oh, okay, you spent a lot of money, but you also mistreated me. You would rather I sleep on the couch instead of a bed. Like you do know I'm your son, correct? And I gotta be honest, just to circle back, if I had a family member or like a cousin or a kid of some kind, and they came back and said, yeah, that man was bullying me for 2 weeks, I would turn around and probably get in a fight with that guy. Like, what are you talking about? You don't turn around and be like, oh, I'm gonna call you by a fake name for the next 24 hours. Welcome to the next 24 hours of your life. Like, dude, what's going on right now? So truly, with all things considered, I'm so sorry you went through this. I'm super glad you shared this story because my God, people need to hear stuff like this. I think understanding people's stories and like their experiences like this, it's a really good way of gaining empathy and understanding where people are coming from. So to that end, I really hope things get better for you in your life, and I hope you're able to find some distance from your crazy mother because you deserve way better, and that woman is truly a monster. An entitled customer tries to scam me and my manager into getting a free car wash for his car. And when we deny his request, he claims that we're discriminating against him, stating that he's gonna go to our general manager just to try and get us in trouble. Here's what happened. So today, an entitled customer came in claiming that he had called about getting a rewash after apparently our car wash didn't do a very good job of it yesterday. This actually does happen sometimes, and we do give rewashes or refunds as long as it's immediate or at least the same day and the customer has their receipt or at least the card that they paid with. Now this entitled customer said that he called yesterday after he got home about it, and whoever took the call from him told him that he could come back for a rewash if he had the necessary information, so he came in for that. However, he said he used a prepaid credit card that he said he threw away immediately afterwards and that he no longer had the receipt, which is already a little bit sketchy. Now he was also able to at least supposedly remember which grade of wash he bought and at roughly what time it was. So to try and get to the bottom of this, I searched our register's receipt log around the time that the entitled customer said that he came in, and the only receipt for a car wash at that time was for a high grade wash. By then, my manager came over to discuss it, and I will admit he was way more heated than was necessary in dealing with the situation. In short, the manager told the entitled customer that he can't verify that he actually bought a wash if he didn't have anything that was part of the original transaction. And to top it all off, we didn't even have a receipt from the register logs that marked down the correct type of wash that he said he bought. This information, along with my manager's unnecessarily heated attitude, even though he was ultimately correct, made this entitled customer incredibly upset. In my 8 months of working at this gas station, he is definitely the angriest customer I've ever had so far. While I definitely understand getting upset by my manager's attitude, as I really wasn't a fan of what he was saying either, I don't believe it warranted such a reaction from this entitled customer. This customer kept saying that his car was not washed properly at all, and that he spent hundreds of dollars a week at our store, which is a really strange claim considering I work 4 days a week and I don't recall ever seeing him before. He even went as far as to say that he felt discriminated against, which I'm not sure where that came from, as I really didn't feel like it mattered in the situation. Eventually, the entitled customer demanded the information of our general manager just so they could complain about our experience. Now, I circled back and I asked the entitled customer if he was sure that he bought the middle grade wash, and he said yes. And then I told him about the only receipt being for a high grade wash, and when I said that to him, he changed his mind suddenly and said that he must have bought the high grade wash instead of the mid grade, and that honestly let off some very big red flags in my mind. Also, before my manager came in, I asked this stupid customer if he bought anything else alongside the car wash, and he said no. After my manager manager came in, I asked him again if he bought anything, and he said, I don't know, maybe my wife bought something. So my manager tried to ask for the last 4 digits of the card that this guy used, but he kept insisting that it was a prepaid card and that he didn't have the numbers. My manager tried to explain that all cards have numbers on them, but the entitled customer wouldn't have it. I asked the customer if he meant one of those Visa gift cards or something like that, and he said yes. The only thing is that those cards have 16 digits, just like any other card. He also said he threw it away immediately after paying for the car wash. So in short, this guy just wanted a rewash the day after his initial car wash, when we usually don't even do that in the first place. He didn't have his receipt, he didn't even have a card that he paid with, and he couldn't keep which grade he bought or anything else straight or try and make it consistent in any kind of way. He had literally no corroborating information, and it was just a dubious story in the beginning. Yet this guy seriously still felt entitled to demand a rewash, claim discrimination when he wasn't given one, and even demand the information of my manager's boss just to complain about him about the situation. It honestly doesn't make sense, and I seriously can't stand customers like this. I'm surprised you didn't review any kind of security footage, or if you even had cameras in the first place. I can imagine that would probably fix pretty much everything in this situation. But either way, this guy was clearly lying. He was just trying to work the system, and when he didn't get his way, he was just like, oh, you're discriminating against me. No, buddy, you're an idiot. You didn't have your receipt or your card with you, and he didn't even know what kind of wash he got for his stupid car. So whatever the truth really is, I would honestly place the blame on this stupid customer. They didn't even know what they got in the first place, and they seriously just made things worse by being super sketchy right off the get-go. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My boyfriend of 2 years is choosing to play an online multiplayer game instead of spending time with me on Discord. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I met through our friends on Discord. We started playing all day every day, to the point where we got super close. We started calling just outside of playing games, and we both developed feelings for each other. He would always stay on call with me if I had trouble sleeping, all the way up until I fell asleep. This became a habit, and he would basically tuck me into sleep every night. We wanted to expand our relationship, and therefore planned our first meeting. It was now about 8 months since we first met up, and in between then and now, we met up 3 more times. I'm gonna go visit him again in 3 weeks. We used to play mostly Valorant together. However, a couple of years before meeting me, my boyfriend played MMOs before switching to FPS. So when I saw a new MMO, Lost Ark, was releasing, I was thrilled for him. He did not seem that interested in Lost Ark. However, I said I would love to try it out with him if he wants to, and he agreed. Although I quickly found out how much grinding you're supposed to do in that MMO, so I did not play too often. My boyfriend, however, got completely hooked. He started playing without me and advancing further, basically making it quite impossible for us to play together. I gave up on it as I didn't really like the game, nor did I like playing it alone. I did not mind it that much, as it seemed like he was having fun. The problem is that he got completely addicted. We no longer would hang out over call every day, we don't play games every day, he won't tuck me into sleep every day anymore, and he sometimes replies really late, and I've started feeling very lonely. He has a big friend group in Lost Ark and plays it like religiously 8 hours a day, if not more. Even when we do call, we do not get a very valuable conversation because of him being focused on the game. He often dismisses my attempts for us to call because he feels drained after being in call with his friends for so long. I've started showing annoyance and sadness. I've told him about feeling lonely and missing him a lot. Every time I get vulnerable and sad with him about this topic, he apologizes and promises to spend more time with me, but nothing has changed. And this has been going on for months and months. He often says he is choosing me above his friends because of him leaving his friends to join my calls. This really hurts me, as I would love for him to just be excited that I'm calling, as I've been eager to talk to him myself without making me feel bad that he has to leave his friends for me. I'm feeling very lost on what to do. I love him very much, but I feel like I'm just grieving, and I'm trying to hold on to our relationship and how it used to be. I've only felt this way this strongly for about a month, and I've cried multiple times to him about how I'm feeling. It just seems like nothing is changing. What should I do? Your boyfriend, first off, is being incredibly toxic. He is choosing a video game over his girlfriend, and that's not fair. That really is not fair. He has his priorities all wrong, and he's not taking you seriously. And unfortunately, this is kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to having an online relationship, and that is what this is. You've tried communicating with him, you've tried to get through through and make some kind of difference in him understanding how you feel, but it seems like he would much rather play video games on Lost Ark with his friends than even try to address the issues at hand that basically are spelling out that he is damaging the relationship. Look, I love video games just like the next person. I love spending time and getting into a game and really trying to get good at it or whatever it is. But when that starts to affect other aspects of my life, that's when I need to pump the brakes and be like, whoa, wait a second. I think I need to stop playing for a little bit and reassess my surroundings. And that's exactly what your boyfriend needs to do. This guy is seriously picking an MMO over his girlfriend. Like, is it really that fun of a game? I hope it is, because he's about to ruin his relationship. So hopefully your boyfriend can kind of like see what's happening and see that he's ruining pretty much everything in his life. Because I can totally see this blowing up in his face, and if he's not careful, this will probably happen sooner than later. My mom wants to reschedule my birthday for 2 weeks from now just to share it with my siblings. And this is all because my parents are under a lot of pressure after they decided to get divorced. And I really don't want this, and I seriously don't know what to do. I first want to start off by saying that I'm honestly not surprised anymore. So like a couple of weeks ago, I posted about my mom trying to take over my 16th birthday. Basically, she wanted to throw a big birthday party for her, and anything I wanted to do was considered boring to her. I was worried and stressed because I'm not good with big crowds, especially ones that surround me. But recently, my bad birthday luck has been paying off. Well, sort of, that is. So my mom and my dad have been having relationship problems, and yesterday I was woken up to them arguing over call, and basically I was thrown right into the middle of their fight once again. During their fight, I said that they should basically just get divorced, and everyone would support their divorce, even me and my little siblings. Today, I heard great news that they are actually going to divorce, which is the first time in years that they are actually doing the right thing. I was comforting my mom, and she said that we were moving into her girlfriend's house this weekend, and we've got to do all this stuff this week. Out of my own stupidity, I brought up that my birthday was this weekend. It's on a Saturday, and she said that she completely forgot. She didn't send out any invites or even start on the birthday. In fact, she forgot to even get me presents. She now wants to rework my birthday into my little sibling's birthday, which is in 2 weeks. I told her that it's fine if I get a small present, but I won't take my sibling's birthday. That's their day and it's not mine. She said to me that it will work. Just trust her on this, and that I used to do this, so it will be fine. They'll just have to understand that I'm under a lot of pressure, is what she said. One half of me is actually very happy I don't have to get dressed up and have to be surrounded by family members that'll just judge me my entire day. But the other half is disappointed that my mom is trying to move my birthday, and like not even move it to like a Sunday or a Monday, but on my own sibling's birthday. I understand the divorce and moving all that is stressful, and honestly, I never wanted a big party or even a cake. I gave up my hopes for any of that many years ago. I just really want new art supplies, and if I'm lucky, a drawing tablet. I don't want to take my sibling's special day. I know how that feels, and I don't want them to end up like me. I've tried to get through to my mom. I don't want to do that, but she still insisted that we do it. She wants to take us to a strip mall to shop, and my little sibling would love that, but I don't want to take that over for them. I now am trying to convince her not to do this. I've even gone so far to say, if she doesn't do this, I'll let her dress me up, etc., and post it anywhere that she wants. She loves to do that, and it's embarrassing, but I'll do anything so that my siblings won't deal with me, as well as them having to share the same birthday. What should I do? First off, I just want to say it really sounds like you're in a rough situation, and I think considering all that you're going through, you're handling it as best as you can. But I totally understand where you're coming from. You don't want to share birthdays because you know what? You shouldn't have to. Even something small, even something that just gives some kind of recognition that today is my day, even if just for a little bit. Like, I'm totally with the original poster. It wouldn't take much for your mom or any other friend that you want to bring along to just show up with a small cake and a simple singular gift. Like, it really would not be that bad if you could just do that. So it's honestly really disappointing that your mom's doing that, and I'm so sorry that you have to deal with that. So hopefully there's some kind of solution, and hopefully you're able to get through to your mom. You clearly don't want to take over your sibling's day, and you would much rather have your birthday on its own day just so you can enjoy it for yourself. Today, I messed up by listening to my dentist, and as a result, it cost me about $1,000 just to get fixed the things my dentist told me to wait on. And now, needless to say, I have a new dentist. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I had a badly decayed molar, and upon my dentist's recommendation, I agreed to a root canal and a crown since it no longer could be simply repaired, and this costed about $1,000. All seemed well until I went overseas to visit my family. I have a nervous habit of clenching my jaw, and on one such occasion, I heard a crack in my tooth. I thought nothing of it until I felt a toothache that evening. I messaged my dentist, who advised me to wait and see, just to see what's going on with it. Now, the tooth hurt badly for a few days, to the point where I could not sleep, but eventually stopped after that. Things were fine for a couple of months until I noticed a bump on my gums where the tooth was. I went to the dentist, and he said that the tooth had cracked further and had gotten infected, which led to an abscess, and bacteria had eaten away at my jawbone. He proceeded to insert a needle into the space between my tooth and my gums. It went all the way in for about 1 centimeter. He had to take out the tooth and put in a dental implant, which would cost another $1,000. I told him I would think about it, but I had lost faith in him at that point, especially since he was the one who had told me to wait and see, and I had listened to him instead of arranging another appointment. I found another dentist through a friend, and the new dentist was more thorough. He told me that the infection had stopped just above my facial nerve, which would still allow him to give me an implant, but not before he put in some bone chips in the hole and let the bone grow back. He extracted my tooth, put in a temporary crown, and told me to return in 3 months. At my next visit, the new dentist said that the bone had healed nicely, and he was able to put a titanium screw in my jawbone and install the permanent crown on it. Well, permanent for up to 10 years, after which it would need to be replaced. Needless to say, after this terrible and costly experience, I now take much better care of my teeth. That story literally made me squirm in my seat. That sounds so unbelievably painful, I can't imagine putting up with that. And what is up with that dentist? They literally said, "Oh, I don't know, just wait and see what happens." Like, dude, that really costs you a lot of money just by waiting and seeing. If there's one thing I've learned, if you hear a crack in your mouth, it's probably not good. It's not like cracking your elbow or your shoulder or anything like that. It's not like cracking your knuckles. Your teeth should not be cracking. And that guy is an idiot for making you wait. I think the damage was probably already done, but like seriously, he should have been like, "Oh my gosh, you felt a crack? Come into my office right now, let's look at it." So hopefully this new dentist is better for you and your teeth. The other guy clearly didn't know what he was doing, or if he did, he seriously cost you a lot of money. My best friend of 25 years has gone ahead and gone with a group of friends who bullied me and treated me like garbage, and I'm seriously stuck not knowing what to do. So as the title suggests, my best friend of 25 years sided with a group of girls against me and is now best friends with the ringleader of the group that bullied me. She even just went to her wedding as a bridesmaid. Now, I was friends with this ringleader from another town, and she moved here and didn't know anyone. I let her live with me rent-free for a month until she found a place of her own to rent. I introduced this girl to my friends, including my best friend of 25 years. We established a group of friends together over a couple of years. A friend of mine passed away suddenly in 2019, and I was a mess. I was snapping a lot and quite self-destructive. I felt like this group of girlfriends weren't there for me during this time, and were all about toxic positivity. After I had blown up with the ringleader of the group, I decided to remove myself from the group chat on Messenger, and I did this on impulse while I was upset. After I calmed down, I called each friend to apologize the next morning, all but the ringleader. I asked to be put back into the chat on Messenger. Then, one of them said that they wanted to have a group chat via Teams before they would allow me back into the Messenger chat, so I agreed. The group chat was basically an intervention, but minus the caring element. It included the ringleader plus my best friend of 25 years and the 3 other girls in the group. They all told me what they thought of me, how bad I am as a person, and that I'm basically this negative jerk that is bringing down the group vibes. They told me that I needed psychological help. I left the chat feeling absolutely worthless. Following that chat, nobody followed up with me at all. Not one person messaged me to check in whether I was okay or whether I made an appointment with a therapist. All of this happened about 4 months after my other friend passed away, who they didn't even know but was a good friend of mine. They added me back to the Messenger chat, but I didn't say anything. They carried on the group chat, sending memes and other funny pictures like nothing had happened. I didn't get any direct messages from them to me. After a few weeks though, they decided to delete me again from the chat without any word because I wasn't saying anything. It's taken me years to heal, and it all still makes me feel awful. My bestie of 25 years was a bridesmaid in the ringleader's wedding a few weeks ago, and I haven't spoken to her in about a year. I feel like the pain is sometimes so raw and recent. They're all living their best lives and all still close friends. I know how they treated me was wrong, and basically they were bullying me. I still feel like I'm the bad person like they told me I am. I guess I'm looking for thoughts and camaraderie that I am better off without them, even if they are super cool, and Instagram makes them look amazing. What should I do? Honestly, these are people that you don't want to associate with. They are horrible people, and they treated you like garbage when you were in some time of need. Like, it is time now to leave these bullies and these ringleaders behind you. And I personally think you would be so much better off focusing on your own healing and avoiding these absolute jerks. They don't care about you. They only had that chat so they could all get it off their chest what they really thought about you, which was all just completely inappropriate and so uncalled for. So honestly, I would just move on with my life. If I was in your shoes, I would definitely see a therapist to try and get that help, but also take the steps to move on. You're going to be so much better off without those people, and they clearly have shown their true colors, and honestly, that is not something I would ever want to deal with in the slightest. Today, I messed up my life after trying to fix up a new home and basically ending up homeless after the contractor that I hired led me along and tricked me for several months, and I'm so angry and I don't know what to do. So this morning, I spent 5 hours waiting with the police as my contractor cleared his tools from my torn apart house. My wife and I separated last year, and I found a fixer-upper for purchase close by. A friend helped me find a contractor to fix a few things in the house while I was subleasing a place for a couple of months. This guy had health issues and took another week before showing up after he was hired. He quickly started finding more and more issues in the house and said fixing them wouldn't take too long. I trusted him since he was a friend of a friend, and I let him do the work. Over time, the project got bigger and bigger, and he kept talking me into fixing more things that were a fire hazard or not up to code. We extended the deadline by a few weeks, but he never met that deadline. He would skip days and then he wouldn't tell me. Or he'll say that he'll cover the molding days during the weekend and then just won't show up. I told him I'm going through a divorce and that I need to move in as soon as possible before my lease expires, and he guaranteed the house will be ready by then. That day came and the house still wasn't ready. He apparently only needed another week, and he kept saying that for almost 3 months. Today, I fired the contractor after another friend came to take a look and told me the house is at least a month away from ready and that I've been lied to this entire time. My contractor flipped and started threatening me. He wouldn't give me my keys back and said I was holding his stuff hostage and he's allowed to enter my house whenever to pick up his stuff. So I called the police. They came and stayed with me until he cleared his stuff out of my ripped apart house and gave me my keys back. He also stole some stuff on the way out. He also asked that I paid him for the work that he's done on top of the $10,000 he already got from me a month ago. The only available contractors that I could find so far are booked out for the next 2 months, which means I need to find a place to stay for 3 more months. They need to fix the plumbing, electrical, install the floors, work on the walls, and put the kitchen back together before the house is even livable again. The electrical system is not done, the plumbing is halfway, and there are no floors. All the walls are open, and he even took the shower apart. The kitchen cabinets are stacked on the floors because of a leak that he discovered, and the countertop broke during disassembly. I can't even camp in the house because there's no floors or running water. My lease expires in 3 days. I was supposed to move in 2 weeks ago. My future ex-wife tells me not to bother her with my problems and that I can't go back to sleep in my own office in the house that I'm still paying a mortgage for. I work from home, so I have no office to go to during the day. It's also my birthday this weekend to top it all off, and I have the kids for the next 5 days and nowhere to go. I really think I completely messed up my life. That is an awful situation. Like, seriously, this guy ruined your house. He strung you along for months, saying, oh, I just need 1 more day to get this done, and then would just keep on lying and just completely fooling you the entire time. Like, there's gotta be some legal precedent on this. If I was in your shoes, I would absolutely be looking for a lawyer of some kind, somebody to give me legal advice, because this guy was scamming you big time. And I think this is also a really nice lesson that regardless of if it's a friend of a friend, you still have every right to expect some kind of professionalism. And if someone is not doing a good job, then they absolutely deserve to be fired. So hopefully this can get figured out for you, because this really does sound like the worst case scenario, and you do not deserve this kind of treatment in the slightest. An entitled customer gets furious with me and tries to rip a laptop out of my hands that we were selling at a pharmacy. Furious with me that they weren't getting exactly what they wanted. And as a result, this customer almost fights me and claims that they're gonna get me fired. And I've honestly never been more annoyed by an entitled customer in my life. Here's what happened. Last night, I had to deal with one of the most entitled customers I've ever had the displeasure of helping. So to start things off, I work at a pharmacy. We mainly sell food and makeup, and we fill prescriptions, obviously, but we also sell electronics at a ridiculously marked up up price. We keep a lot of the most expensive items behind the cash register in lock and key so no one steals them. I was doing my job as a cashier and an old couple approaches me. There are a lot of elderly who shop here in the area, and I would say that most of them are rather friendly, like 99% of the time. Unfortunately, the 1% still roam here, and I could tell I was in for an inconvenient time immediately. As soon as the old man opened his mouth, he loudly inquired about one of our laptops behind the glass case, specifically the specs like the RAM and disk space. I got the keys and took it out of the glass case. You see, the thing about these laptops is that they're shipped to us in a plain brown box. The most you would learn from the box is the model number, UPS, and the serial number. I could not help them without bringing out my phone and looking it up, and that's something that my bosses don't really want me to do in front of the customers, so I couldn't be of any help. In addition, my phone wasn't even on me if I wanted to try and break the rules. The guy tells me to read the price tag, and all I can get from that is the screen size and the disk space. And while it is something per se, it's simply not enough for him. He looks at me and says, "Can you scan the barcode and see what the specs are?" And I'm just thinking to myself, no, please just ring it up in the cash register like everybody else. The woman then asked me if they can buy it and open it and then return it if they don't like it. And I explained that I can't do that. The store has a policy against returning open products, especially $350 electronics. And when I say this, they suddenly get irate, as if I'm the one who makes the policies and not just some hourly worker wishing they would just leave. I tell them, look, I'm just a worker. It's the head office that decides these things. I know it's stupid, but I can't do anything about it. Now, as I'm trying to speak to them, they just kept interrupting me, and this was specifically coming from the old man. Every time the lady tried to speak, he would shush her and then try to shush me. It was an endless loop of the same questions, asked with more aggression and confusion each time, like some sort of feedback loop. I had an idea for a second. I write down the model number so they can look it up at home and do research that way. I was quick on my feet with that one. Not too bad of a resolution here. That is, until this entitled customer tried to grab the box out of my hands aggressively. The absolute gall of this guy. Like I'm too incompetent to read a box, yet alone the lack of manners. I turn away from his grip and I say, "No sir, you can't do that. These are behind the register for a reason. I can't give this to customers. Anyone could walk out of the store with it. It's a security policy, sir." And it was right about then that I figured out I was in harm's way. Me, the lone worker who must be making all these draconian and unreasonable policies. How dare I do my job? They thought this was a free country. The old man starts yelling at me. "How dare you? I've been in this country for 50 years. I don't need a little kid like you accusing me of stealing. You think I'm gonna steal from you? How dare you? This is ridiculous." And he went on and on and on. He repeatedly cocks his fist at me as if he's gonna try and knock my lights out. Then he lowers it and then repeats the action again. So naturally, I start to get a little bit worried. He then tries to lunge at me to grab the laptop again. So I tried to explain, these aren't my rules. These are company policies, and they surely are not personal. I mean, what else do I do? Then the woman starts squawking at me. "You should be ashamed of yourself. First, you don't let us return such a thing, and now you're saying he's stealing? He's an honorable man. He would never do such a thing. What is the point of buying anything from you people?" And as always, came threats of me losing my job, simply for refusing to do things that will inevitably cost me my job. And now everybody is looking at us. I don't blame them. What else are you gonna do when you hear such a commotion? But this guy was about to throw hands. I was seriously considering just giving them the laptop because it wasn't worth this hassle of being ganged up on, and I definitely don't get paid enough for this garbage. I pleaded with them that I would call my supervisor, which I would have done earlier if they weren't giving me sensory overload. My coworker already noticed the commotion and brought the supervisor over before I could pick up the phone. She asked what's wrong, and the couple tried their best to paint me like a villain, saying that I wasn't letting them return it or that I wasn't letting them inspect it, and that I was accusing them of theft. My coworker goes on to say that I didn't do anything wrong and that that's just our policy. I mean, these guys were legitimately gaslighting me into thinking I was doing something wrong here for a second. They asked for the supervisor again, even though my supervisor is literally right next to me and a lot shorter. They say to this couple, "I am the supervisor," and the couple's face lights up. I guess they were simply amazed that the short lady was the supervisor. Now, of course, my supervisor says the exact same thing that I told them. And funnily enough, these two were actually capable of reasonable emotions, using phrases like, "I understand," and "Oh, I see," and all without the threats of physical violence. I was honestly astonished. To spray down the grease fire a bit more, she looked up the model number on her phone on the manufacturer's site. And as always, it was much cheaper on the site. So she just referred it to them and told them where to buy it. And surprisingly, they were both glad that they got what they wanted. With all my teeth and facial expressions intact, the same way that they were 10 minutes ago, they both left and thanked my supervisor for the help. And you guessed it, of course I got no apology. My supervisor flipped them the bird on the way out behind their backs. She had already given her 2 weeks notice, so she had literally nothing to lose. Both of my coworkers tell me I did nothing wrong, but I was so very unreasonably shaken up, so I had to take a breather. This is yet another example of that classic retail trope. The first person you speak to just doesn't know anything, but the second person always does. Also, threatening minimum wage workers, no matter how explicit or implicit said threats are, will always work out. But also, good coworkers will stand up for you and help you out in the wake of these threats, which can be hard to come by these days. So what's my advice to this lovely couple? Next time, go to some place like Best Buy, where they give you, I don't know, a warranty and a chance to inspect the item freely. This all could have been prevented if they were educated on what they were fighting for. Literally an overpriced laptop from a pharmacy. Yeah, the couple in this story were completely out of line. There's no reason for them to talk to you like that, and the fact that this guy basically tried to rip this out of your hands and potentially steal it really is just an indication of how awful they are. And the original poster has it right. It's always the second person that seems like a genius when the first person in customer service doesn't give them exactly what they want. So just be glad that you have coworkers who had your back. They saw exactly what happened, and they defended you against this weird entitled couple. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My boyfriend suddenly told me that in 2 months he's gonna study abroad in France, and I feel so caught off guard and so frustrated, and I seriously don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been dating since October of 2021, and we've had a few rough patches in the past. We've always had problems with communicating and being transparent. I try my best to be as open as I can be, and I feel like I do a decent job at it. However, my boyfriend rarely ever brings anything up and shuts down anytime I bring anything up. 2 weeks ago, he randomly told me that he got accepted to study abroad in France. Although it would be just for about 2 months, I was never even told that he applied to such an opportunity. He told me that he applied back in January, but didn't think he should tell me because he didn't think he would get accepted. I got really upset because this was said so unexpectedly and nonchalantly, and he didn't tell me that he applied over 3 months ago. He told me he wanted to go on vacation with me since January, when in reality, he is most likely just going to France. And this wasn't just any vacation, but it was for my graduation. And now I feel like I can't go because it's too late to ask any of my friends. A week after the news of the acceptance, I decided to bring up the topic again because I would like to know what to expect, especially because if he was to go, it would be in a month. I brought up vacation and asked him if he made the decision to go to France or not. And when I did this, he shut down and he got frustrated that the topic was even brought up. Eventually, he got even more frustrated with me and raised his voice by saying, "You are pressuring me to make a decision. Fine, I am going to France." I got even more upset because I don't think I did anything wrong, and I do deserve to know what is going on. He has a semi-plan of what the France trip would look like, and I'm 99% sure that he will go, but I'm waiting to hear it from him. Because it was 9 p.m. and we had to wake up early that day, he left to go home as I was still upset. It made me feel bad that he left me upset and didn't even give me a hug or a stupid pat on the back just to make sure I'm okay before leaving. Ever since he left on Sunday, I haven't received a call from him or was asked if I would like to talk about it. He tells me that he is aware that he isn't good at communicating, but to me, it's just so unfair. I feel like he doesn't care or include me in the picture. And in fact, I don't think he sees the bigger picture at all. He texts me and we are both pretty cold to one another. He wants us to have a normal conversation, but unfortunately, after everything, I don't know how normal it can be. That is, unless we continue to sweep everything under the rug and pretend nothing is happening, which I'm sick of doing. He's able to move on from unfinished and unresolved stuff, but I literally can't do it anymore. I feel like my bucket is overflowing at this point, and I seriously don't know what to do. This is definitely a rough situation. He just springs it on you all of a sudden that, hey, I'm gonna be going to France for a little bit. Like, yeah, that would probably really upset me as well. Like, that's kind of a thing you want to know ahead of time, just so you can try and properly prepare for that inevitably happening. Like, it really does sound like he just does not communicate with you in the slightest. And you also don't sound like a team. Like, his decision to apply for this and then not say anything to you at all, like ever really seems like kind of a selfish decision, especially when you consider the scope of your relationship being a relationship. Like, he literally didn't involve you in this, and anytime there is a decision to be talked about, he doesn't want you involved. And that's like really annoying. I think I would go nuts if I had to deal with that. So hopefully this can get figured out between the two of you, because your boyfriend really is kind of being toxic in this moment, and I think he needs to learn how to communicate with you better, because otherwise it's just going to cause problems in the future. A server I work with accidentally took a credit card home from a customer, and as a result, another one of my coworkers is getting thrown under the bus for this mistake, and it seriously seems unfair and I don't know what to do. So I currently work at an all-you-can-eat restaurant as a food runner, and a server took a customer's credit card on accident a few days ago. At this restaurant, we all share tips, and any tip we get from the customers, no matter how it's given, must be given to the host, which is then counted at the end of the night. We get tipped out on our bi-weekly paychecks. No server is officially assigned to a table or section, so everyone pretty much just runs around and helps any table that needs help. On this particular night, we had 4 servers, a food runner, which is me, and a busser with no hosts and a manager. Servers were sitting and closing our tables whenever anyone was available. On this busy night, an 8-top arrives at around 7:30, and one of the servers insists on taking this table. This customer tends to side tip a lot, and this server knows this. And this server in question also tends to steal side tips and has been caught before, but is always given a warning because he's been with the restaurant the longest. We'll call him John. That's not his real name. At around 8:45, the server that is blamed for all of this is frantically asking everyone if they had seen that table's credit card. Let's call her Jane. Jane is not her real name. Jane is looking everywhere and is in a panic. She tries to find John, but he clocked out and had gone home without telling anyone, which is a classic move for John. She calls John, but he doesn't pick up. She then calls the manager, but he just tells her to ask the owner in her office. Jane tells the owner everything, and she is furious. She tries calling John, but he doesn't pick up again. He starts texting me, "Why is the owner calling?" And I tell him that we are looking for the 8-tops credit card, but he ends up telling me that he doesn't have it. I tell him to call the owner because she is furious. The customer tells us that they gave John the credit card before they sat down. The owner keeps calling and calling, but eventually he picks up and is told to come back. The customers are waiting 30 minutes by this point, and they are threatening to leave. All the while, the server is telling the customer to please wait, and the server is coming back with a card. While we are waiting for John, the customer goes up to the owner and starts yelling about walking out. The owner then starts yelling that you have to pay or we are going to call the police. But they end up walking out before John could get here. He shows up 10 minutes later with the card. At this point, John and the owner are trying to call their phone number from the reservation list, but they don't pick up and their card is declined when charged. The owner then turns around and blames Jane for giving the check late, but not to John. Today, I heard the owner look through the cameras and saw the customer had slipped the credit card with no cash into John's apron when they sat down. I don't know if he didn't notice or he thought he could side tip and try not to notice, but the owner is still blaming Jane for not giving the check earlier. Now, knowing the owner, I'm pretty sure they're gonna try and make Jane pay for the almost $500 bill that they left. So honestly, whose fault do you think it is here? It just blows my mind that Jane is being blamed for all of this just because she didn't give the check earlier. I feel like giving the check earlier would not have helped with anything, and this all just seems incredibly unfair. The only people to blame in this situation are John and the owner. John for leaving early and not finishing up his table, but also the owner for not assigning servers specific tables. Like, this is what happens when you don't do this correctly. If they had just had specific tables and allowed servers to get their own tips, this all could have been avoided. But now, because it's basically a free-for-all and everybody can go pretty much wherever they want, this is what's gonna happen. Things are gonna get slipped through the crack and there's not gonna be any accountability. And the only accountability that's gonna be found is whoever the owner can blame. And Jane just happened to be in the crossfire. And that's not fair in the slightest. Like, that really is unfair. John should be held accountable for the table that he waited on, and Jane absolutely should not be thrown under the bus. My mother has been incredibly toxic towards my wife, and now I'm at a loss on what to do. So I recently got married to a lovely woman in my current country of residence, and my mom lives in a different country. She introduced herself to my wife a month ago via the phone. Now, for a little bit of context, my mother was a housewife her entire life, since my father was able to provide for the entire family back then when prices were more affordable. In my current country of residence, inflation has forced both my wife and me to work full-time jobs jobs just to meet our expenses, and we balance the household chores together. Out of the blue, my mother says that she wants to talk to the both of us. When my wife and I are on the phone with my mom, she randomly says stuff like, "I used to polish shoes with my kids and my husband. I used to wait for my husband to come home after his work, and he would be so stressed out and I would calm him down." She goes on and on about how a woman should take care of the house while the husband is the sole breadwinner. I interjected my mother by saying that my wife works as hard as me at her office and we will balance our lifestyle. To that, my mother rudely interrupts me, saying that her husband ran an entire office, and then goes on to speak about my father's occupation without acknowledging my wife. Finally, my mom looks at my wife's picture, in which she made a snide remark saying her makeup wasn't great and she didn't have to wear makeup as a natural beauty was best. Now, when she said this is when I was shocked, and I saw my wife start to tear up. It was her first long conversation with my mother, and this was right after we got married, and she didn't feel welcome at all. I hate my mom for trying to relay her personal opinions, as well as her life history, as some kind of life lesson. Her lifestyle is unsustainable in this moment of time. I pacified my wife, and I phoned my mother to understand what in the world was wrong with her, but she's unapologetic. She's my mother, but I feel like she's so toxic. She's visiting next month, and I don't want her to ruin the mood in our marriage. How do I set any kind of boundaries with my mom? What should I do? So first off, I think you need to know that your mom is unapologetically rude. So I think you need to set some serious expectations from the get-go if you want to be serious about this. I mean, if I was in your shoes and my wife had just been offended in that way and had started to tear up and start to cry because of these comments, I would say to her, okay, let's get you a hotel that you can stay in. There's no way she's going to stay in my home in the slightest. And the extent of that visit is going to be a small visit at that. Like, I really am a firm believer that you don't need to put yourself in the path of toxic people. And that doesn't matter if they're family members, your mom, your dad, whoever. If they want to be toxic and they want to be nasty people to the ones you love the most, then congratulations, there's gonna be problems and there's gonna be consequences for them. So truly, in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be supporting my wife in this situation. I would be reminding her that yes, you love her, and that no, your mom is not gonna get between you and her. Today, I messed up by letting myself get scammed at Walmart, and I honestly feel really dumb and I wish it didn't happen. So I had some random lady approach me in Walmart today, asking to help her buy baby formula. As a dad and someone that was raised by an immigrant single mom who has to clean strangers' houses for food, this really hit home. In my mind, if she's willing to submit herself to the shame of asking strangers for help, the least I could do is indulge her and help. So we make our way to the baby aisle, and she grabs 3 cans of the most expensive specialized formula. Of course, alarm bells are ringing at this point, but I'm still trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. I thought, well, maybe she's stocking up if she's really struggling, and her baby may have specific needs. Then she asked for medicine and bottles, and it made me think, why on earth does she have 4 of the same medicines? Whatever, I'm still trying to be compassionate and not judge. We saunter up to the checkout aisle, and she's making me uncomfortable with how close she's getting. Now, I'm already on high alert at this point, so I'm taking precautions. First and foremost, I use a CRD that I know has a set limit, as I see the price go up and up until we get to $300. Okay, I think to myself, this is clearly BS. I won't deny her the medicine, but I'm not getting all those cans, mostly because I know my card's going to decline. It has a $500 limit, so I run the card and it declines. So I say that we're gonna have to pick what she actually needs. And when I say this, she begins to panic. So we take off 2 of the 3 cans of formula that she got, and we keep the medicine and the baby bottles. As we walk out, she keeps asking for the receipt. Now, I'm not about to give her the receipt, and it's on my phone anyways. So I let her take a partial picture of said receipt and only let her see the date and what she had specifically asked to purchase. It was obviously a scam, so I go back inside and I warn the employees. Suffice to say, I'm out about $200, but frankly, I'd rather be a gullible, compassionate idiot than some scam artist who tries to scam people in Walmart. Why on earth would you go through with that purchase? If you knew this was a scam, why would you not just be like, whoa, I'm not paying for this. Sorry, you're gonna have to find somebody else to pay for this. Like, there's no way I would pay $200 to somebody who I knew was gonna try and scam me. That's just not gonna happen. This seems like a really dumb way of handling this situation, and frankly, I can't think of a better way to get back at this person than to publicly humiliate them at the aisle checkout. Announce to the store, hey, this lady's scamming me, or something like that. It's obvious they were just trying to get the receipt so that they could return the items on another day, but like, you shouldn't have even let them get to that point in the slightest. So next time, maybe be more vigilant with your money. There's no reason you should have helped this lady out in the slightest, especially when you knew it was a scam right from the get-go. A group of students that I was mentoring for a school project demanded that I stop bothering them, claiming that they don't need my help for their project. So I decide to maliciously comply, and as a result, they fail their project and try to blame me in the process. Here's what happened. So this story is somewhat fresh, and I'm still smirking when I remember it, so I decided to share it with the world. For some background, I'm a 27-year-old female, I work in IT, and I'm a well-respected and known member of the IT party circle. Now, I'm not jaw-dropping, but people know me, and I have a very good reputation. One of the things is that I got to the point in my career where I wanted to give back, so I started to mentor others. Mostly I mentored adults, or those who were closer to me in age. I would give career advice, how to apply for different exchange programs that can boost your professional growth, as well as ways to improve your speaking and writing skills. But I was always one who was up for the challenge, and I decided to try and mentor some kids. It is not a secret that IT and STEM are increasingly popular right now, and more people want to get into the field. Therefore, there are myriads of boot camps, hackathons, and mentoring programs for all ages. So I signed up for one such program as a mentor. I would teach kids how to code with blocks, tell them what AI is, and how to develop an MVP. And I'm sure it sounds more complicated than it looks at first glance, especially when you're an educated professional with a degree, explaining concepts that are rather complicated to children who may have less than 1/50th of your tech knowledge. I also must add that participation in the said program gives these kids credits and can help them get into better schools or even be eligible for some university scholarships later in life. So there are only positives of being a part of this, if you ask me. The only thing is that you must upload the project to the site before the deadline, and that fact is going to be very important towards this story. So I was assigned 2 team members. It was primary, which was early middle school, which was Team A, as well as high schoolers, which was Team B. Both teams had 5 members, and the youngest on the team was about 8 years old on A team. And I thought to myself, oh my god, that's gonna be tough, especially when I was thinking about A team, and how I was pretty sure I was up for a tough time. Also, since they are so young, the parents of the kids must observe Team A's meetings, as well as my lessons. But ironically, despite my worries, even with the help from the parents, the kids in Team A were doing great. But the same can't be said about Team B. Now, here are 2 rules that are very important to this project. For starters, at least 1 meeting has to happen per week, and at least 50% of the group must be present. And the second rule involves communication. When I type something like tasks to do or reply to a question asked before, I ask the team to respond to me. Not even a text message. A thumbs up emoji would even be fine. We all know that red status doesn't mean much when you can accidentally open an app for a second and swipe it to clear the RAM on the phone. So Team A attended all the meetings and responded to my assignments. There was a curriculum provided by the program to follow, and they were very receptive overall. When Team B started, on the other hand, they were okay, but then they started not showing up on meetings and leaving assignments on red, and they were completely unresponsive. I understand they have a lot on their plate. Exams are no joke, but they disregarded my time, which I will not be okay with. I have a job to do, and mentoring in that program was 100% volunteer, and there was no payment for the mentors. There was, however, a very strict deadline, the middle of April, when their MVPs must be loaded onto the website for later judgment. And even though I was really upset and a little bit angry, I am a professional first. So I wrote multiple messages asking for updates on the project, with warnings at the end of the message, basically reminding them that April 15th is the deadline. You don't want to miss it. After one such message, the so-called leader of Team B by the name of Jane wrote the following. Also, Jane is not the real name. She said, hi, I know that you probably mean well, but you only bother the team with those deadline messages. Can't you, chill out? When we need you, we will contact you. Just get out of our hair and let us do our jobs. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings. It is what it is. Now, after I read that message, I said to myself, what is she talking about? But I did respond by saying that I would stop messaging if that caused any kind of tension in their team, while still reminding them that the deadline is the 15th, and the site would reject any application that was uploaded after that day. She responded by saying, just stop, okay, geez. And when Jane said that, I washed my hands of this situation completely. And since that message, I haven't written anything to Team B. I had scheduled no meetings, no updates, or checkups about the curriculum or their understanding, and I had not written down any reminder of the deadline, not once since that conversation. The deadline comes around and Team A uploaded their project with no issues, and their parents parents even bought me a nice box of chocolates as a thank you gesture, just for all the help that I provided. And just like the deadline came and went, Team B started bombarding my chat, asking me to help because something's wrong with the site. We can't upload our project. I entered the chat and I said to them, yes, it will not upload. No, it's not the issue with the site. The deadline has passed. So if you try to upload, it will only show you an error message. I tried to warn you. And the best part is that there's no extra credits. There's no nothing. The rules of that program are simple, but there are very hard no exception rules as well. Team B then tried to blame me, saying that as a mentor, it was my job to ensure that they would succeed. I reminded them that my job as a mentor is to provide support and guidance, as well as keep track of their progress and remind them of the deadline, which all of the above, Jane had asked me not to do. And since I respected their boundaries, I did exactly what they had requested. They can sulk as much as they want. I have all of their communications in writing, so they don't have a leg to stand on when trying to accuse me of sabotaging them in the program. So at the end of the day, this is all entirely their fault. What a funny story. These kids probably thought they were being slick by telling you to buzz off and to stop bothering them, when in reality, they had a literal professional on their hands that could probably help them much more than any of them could combined. Like, what a bunch of idiots. And this is the result of your actions. Like, actions have consequences. And if you don't live up to your deadlines, this is what's gonna happen to you. And what's even better is that when they didn't get their way and they weren't able to upload their stupid project online, they then tried to blame the mentor and be like, no, it's your fault that you didn't help us. And it's like, what are you talking about? You literally said, no, you cannot help us out. We don't want your help. Get out of here. Like, this is literally their own doing. So it's really cool to see the original poster stand their ground and maliciously comply in such a hilarious way. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. A customer at my drive-thru window doesn't understand the most simplest of instructions despite having a job at a billion-dollar corporation, and I'm honestly blown away by how stupid this guy was. Here's what happened. So it's the graveyard shift at this humble gas station slash food mart, and as per usual, I've locked the main door and I'm doing business through the night teller window. It's not a complicated device. A drawer slides out to the customer to accept money or credit cards. Then I pull it in, put what they want into the tray with their change, and slide it back to them. Ta-da, quick and easy, right? But no, some people just can't grasp that simple concept. What really boggles my mind is that in this area, we get customers who are highly paid technical engineers for billion-dollar corporations, and they're completely dumbfounded by a simple moving drawer that can only do one thing: go in and out. It's been a mechanical principle for thousands of years, and they really should know this one. Just now, I had to explain what to do to one of the aforementioned engineers who wanted to buy something. Pretty commonly, the public wants to use their phone app to pay for stuff, which means they have to put their phone in the tray so I can tap the reader by the register. And no, before you ask, we are not going to put an expensive reader on a wire that you could probably guess some drunk clown will rip out of the wall. Now, his confusion started as soon as I slid the door out to him. Instead of setting it aside, he held up his phone like I was going to scan the app with the lasers from my eyes. So I told him that he needs to put it in the drawer and added a helpful visual aid of pointing at the drawer poking out at him. Studying the mechanics of the thing intently, he proceeded to put his whole arm up to the elbow into the slot without releasing the phone in the first place. And as you could guess, this got us nowhere, because with his arm jammed in there, I couldn't move anything, which then leads to my second instruction. I say to him, please let it go. But somehow this was still beyond his comprehension. But at least he took his arm out. As this guy who makes more money than me in a week than I can make in a whole year stood hopelessly defeated by a coasting tray, I outlined the procedure clearly for him once again. I said to him, put it in the drawer and let it go. Still believing that this mechanical magic could be physically possible, he set the phone on the tray and slowly started pushing it towards the back of the drawer in the manner that got his arm stuck there in the first place. So I shouted out again, let it go. How could he not be getting this? Don't they have keyboard trays at their desk that they work with all the time? So I just kept repeating that he needs to let it go, please. He finally stepped back in terror that I was about to start singing that stupid song and give him an earworm. So I took advantage of his fear of show tunes and slipped the drawer and his phone into my cashier clutches. Now, when I did this, you would think that he had witnessed a modern miracle, and getting his phone back as well as what he was buying through the tray, reverse Uno style, just blew his ever-loving engineering mind. As someone who used to work at a bank and dealt with those drawers on a daily basis, let me tell you something. People really are dumb when it comes to those drawers. Like, they seriously just don't know how to work it. They put their arms where they shouldn't be, they drive up entirely too close to you, and they ignore every single instruction you ever give them. It is literally obnoxious, and I totally understand where the original poster's coming from. And I'm totally with them on this one. Why on earth can an engineer not figure this out? Like, literally just put your stuff in there and then move on with your life. And there's also the idea that maybe he just didn't want to give up his phone and he just wanted to scan it. But you know what? If you didn't want to give up your phone, then maybe you shouldn't be paying with your phone. Like, sometimes they need to take it, scan it, and then give it back. It's not like the cashier's gonna take the phone and run off with it. Like, come on. The original poster goes on to say that the card reader is about 6 feet away from the night teller window, which makes sense, assuming that they probably had to go like towards the front of the store just to charge this specific type of card. I've seen that at other jobs, so it kind of makes sense. So I don't really blame the original poster for getting frustrated. They were giving some pretty clear instructions, and it's kind of mind-boggling that somebody so smart could have this difficult of a time with something so simple. My coworker secretly went through my purse and violated my privacy, and as a result, he got fired, and now my coworkers are treating me so differently, and I seriously now don't know what to do. So I first want to start off by saying that this is a thing that has been bothering me for a month now, so I really need some perspective here, as I don't have a lot of friends to discuss this with, so I really just need some advice. So last month, while getting ready to go out with my friends, I realized that I had left my purse in my work locker, so I immediately called my supervisor by the name of John, that's not his real name, to see if he could check and see if it was there, and to keep it with him as I was on my way to try and collect it. He agreed, found it, and kept it with him. I had to take the bus to my workplace, and it was later than I thought. John had to leave as something urgent came up, and he texted me that he left his phone with my other coworker. So when I got there, I collected my purse from my other coworker, and I went out with my friends. So at night, my coworker by the name of Mark, also not his real name, sent me a picture of me from my purse with a smiling face caption. And this wasn't a typical picture. It was a picture of me in a bikini, one from the front and one from the back. Now, for further context, I had this picture in my purse, but it was literally hidden away in my purse. So he clearly had to go through my purse just to find the picture. Now, when I asked him what this was all about, he admitted that his coworker had accidentally left my purse on the table. So he, feeling curious, went through my purse and found that picture and thought it was hot. I told him to delete the image right now because it violated my privacy, and he thankfully said that he would. The following day when I returned to work, he asked me if he could see my back and look at the tattoo under my chest. And when he said that, I felt unbelievably violated and honestly scared. I went to my boss and I just started crying. He told me to report this to HR, and I did just that. After investigating, they fired Mark. Now, the issue is, Mark's girlfriend has been going around telling people that I planted the picture there on purpose just to try and get with Mark. And some of my other coworkers also think I overreacted and I should have just brushed it off because he probably meant it as a joke. And ever since that, I've been feeling unbelievably uncomfortable working there now, and I'm considering if I should just quit. I really enjoy working there, and I don't know how long it would take me to find a job. If I do quit, do I explain to my new employer why I quit? And will that paint me in a bad way? What should I do? It really sounds like Mark's girlfriend is about to get fired as well, because to me, this sounds like retaliation. She is literally going around the workplace, making up lies about you, and trying to ruin your reputation. That is not allowed. She is clearly breaking the rules, and HR absolutely could fire her for that. And let's think about the hypothetical for a second. Let's assume that you did put that picture in your purse on purpose. The very fact that he went through your purse, violated your privacy, and took pictures of your body without your consent is in and of itself unbelievably creepy, and he absolutely deserved to be fired. Like, that guy is a weirdo, and there is literally no excuse for that type of action. So if I was in your shoes, I would not quit. You've worked too hard to get that job, and from the sounds of it, it seems like you really enjoy this job. So I think maybe it's time to shake off the shame and decide right now to get angry and stand up for yourself. Be loud and don't take no for an answer. Record everything and anything that this lady has done to you and report it all to HR. Like, think about it. They are clearly already on your side, and you can bet they don't want you to get a lawyer involved just to try and force their hand. They want this to go over as smoothly as possible, and they don't want to be on your bad side. I mean, you've already proven that this guy's an absolute creep, and now his girlfriend's going around trying to retaliate against you? Like, I don't think so. That's not okay, and that cannot fly. What the girlfriend is doing is harassment in the workplace, and if I was in your shoes, I would report them and absolutely pursue this to the furthest extent. My teacher bullied me into calling my boyfriend in the middle of class, and I was so shocked by the way she acted, as well as the disrespectful manner in which she controlled her classroom. Here's what happened. So when I was in high school, I was taking calculus. The teacher, we'll call her Mrs. Smith, that's not her real name, was notorious for picking favorites and despised all others. I unfortunately was the latter half, despite trying my best at every turn to do my best and get her to like me in some kind of way. She would find the smallest things to take points off of my homework and my notes, and it got to the point where I would compare with others sitting next to me who wouldn't be getting points off for the exact same things. This is the kind of pettiness and hatred that she had towards me. She liked my boyfriend, who is now my husband, a lot more than me, and he had the same class 2 periods after me. He was a senior, and this will be important later. Mrs. Smith was also well known for never tolerating someone missing class for any reason. She would throw a fit when athletes would be out for a tournament and would tell them that they had to turn their work in even if they weren't going to be there. So many students would come in on those days with 4 other people's homework just to turn it in for them. I mean, God forbid you were sick. Good luck trying to get the notes or even the homework on those days. My high school had an ongoing deal with the seniors each year to combat the senior skip day tradition. Attendance rules stated that the less absences you had, the less finals that you had to take. So if you didn't miss school, you didn't have to take the finals. And this is something all the seniors wanted. The school would hold graduation practice on a school day, and if the seniors showed up and didn't cause any issues during the practice, they'd be free to go home the rest of the day and not be marked as absent. Mrs. Smith hated this agreement and tried every year to get administration to go back on it, but it was all to no avail. On the day of graduation practice, I walked into my class and was immediately confronted by Mrs. Smith. She told me I needed to contact my boyfriend right then in front of her class and tell him that he needed to be in class today or she was going to mark him absent. I tried telling her that it was the graduation practice and they had them turn off their phones, but she simply wouldn't have it. So in front of the entire class, I had to call my boyfriend, which of course went straight to voicemail, and she had me leave a message telling him what she told me to say. For some reason, she was really upset that he wouldn't pick up, as if I was the magic contact that would turn his phone on. My boyfriend texted me an hour later, asking if I was serious about the message. I confirmed it, and he was totally upset because they had just given the seniors permission to go home. He then immediately drove to the school and went to the door of her room right before the class started. He asked Mrs. Smith from the door if she really said all of that to me, and she confirmed that she had. My boyfriend then said, "Okay, well, I'm here. I'm going to go home now." Mrs. Smith then snapped at him. She said, "If you don't come sit down and walk away instead, I'm going to mark you absent. I don't care what the principal will say." My boyfriend looked her in the eyes and said, "Okay," and then just walked away, going immediately to the front office and asked to talk to the assistant principal. He said when the secretary asked him what this was all about and he relayed the whole story, the secretary picked up the phone, called the assistant and said, "You need to come down here. You know who is up to it again." The assistant principal heard my boyfriend tell the story again, and he was livid. Neither of us saw this, but according to some friends there, she walked down to Mrs. Smith's classroom right then and there and pulled her out of the class. While I can't say what was said because I have no idea, he was immediately allowed to go home with no worries about an absence, and the both of us received apologies from the office, as well as from Mrs. Smith herself. The last few weeks of school after that were kind of a nightmare for the both of us because she tried every kind of petty attempt to try and ruin our day. To this day, I still can't believe she stuck around after that year and actually retired last year from that school. In all honesty, she should have been fired a long time ago, and her actions were entirely inappropriate. Honestly, people like that should not be teachers. Like, she is legitimately just an awful person. Like, who in their right mind would try to lord over their classroom and pretend like, "Oh, I'm above the principal. If you don't show up to class, I'm gonna mark you absent." Like, no lady, that's not how this works. If the principal and the school administration says, "Hey, you can miss after this day," I'm gonna do just that. I'm gonna leave early and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, that is so wildly inappropriate, it's not even funny. And also, why would this lady make the original poster call their boyfriend in the middle of class? Like, if I was in their shoes, I would have been like, "Nope, I am not doing it. There's no way I'm gonna call him. I'm not doing that for you." Because that's just so rude. Like, what do you expect? He's a senior and he was asked to turn his phone off before going to the graduation ceremony. Like, how does that not compute with this stupid lady? And I'm totally with the original poster here. Mrs. Smith absolutely should have been fired a long time ago. She is clearly not a good teacher, and she is not somebody who should be even pretending to care about these kids. And it is always so much worse when you have a teacher who picks favorites graduates. Like they just handpick some students and say, you, I like you. And then they just completely ignore everybody else and don't give anybody else any kind of slack. That, in my opinion, is the mark of a terrible person, and I think this lady should have been fired a long time ago. An entitled delivery driver refuses to give me my groceries that I ordered, stating that they won't give me my groceries unless I give them a good tip. But when I tell them no, they freak out, run back to their car, and drive off with my groceries. And I'm simply fed up. I'm so angry over the circumstance, and I seriously don't know what to do. So to start things out, I use a delivery service that brings my groceries directly to my door. It has been a great help and saves a ton of time. It is a dice roll though whenever you order. There are, after all, some very questionable people who do deliveries. I've had a couple of bad experiences, so for that reason, I choose not to tip until after the service is complete. I tip anywhere from 10 to 15%, and I think that's reasonable and very fair. I usually tip more if I order heavy items like soda or bottled water. Now, really, in my opinion, I don't think tipping should exist at all. I can't tell you how annoyed I get when I have an iPad shoved in my face by cashiers, or people handing you your to-go order, and even the guy that might be fixing your air conditioning. It's presumptuous and rude. You're getting put in this awkward position where you're expected to subsidize the wages of people who've done the bare minimum in order to fulfill the services I've already paid for. Tips used to be reserved for people that went out of their way to do a great job. Anyways, I opened the door today to a lady with no groceries in hand, and instead of greeting me, abruptly asked if I'm planning on leaving a tip. I told her that I tip based on the service that I receive, which means I have to tip after she finishes the delivery. The woman loudly sucks her teeth and tells me I'm not getting my order until I give her a tip. She's very adamant that I tip her in cash as well. I asked her to deliver my groceries first, and she flat out refuses, and I just stared at her in shock. We stand in silence awkwardly until I told her that I've already paid for my order and that it's her job to make sure I get it regardless of what I tip. And before I can even finish my sentence, this lady walks away, shuts her trunk, and starts to drive off. And when she did this, I was honestly blown away. I spent the next half an hour being bounced around from person to person on customer service, only to be told that I had to call in to resolve the problem. One very disgruntled phone call later, and I finally got my refund and my driver reported. And after this experience, I am seriously done with tipping. I'm so tired of being guilted into paying on top of an already expensive bill just because the owners don't want to pay their workers a decent living. You can call me selfish or rude, but I'm past the point of being moved by social pressure to tip. From now on, I will be discontinuing all tips. It's not fair to the customer or the employee. It relies on guilt and preys on people's fears of social awkwardness in order to fleece us. We should not be worrying that an employer won't deliver our order or sabotage our food if we dare not tip them. And you know what? If prices go up, well then fine. I want to know exactly what I'm paying for. No more mandatory but not actually mandatory gratuity. If enough of us do it, tipped employees will be motivated to demand compensation from the people who should actually be paying for it. And I honestly believe that it's not the customer's responsibility to pay for your staff. First and foremost, the fact that the driver drove off when the original poster didn't tip them right away is honestly crazy to me. I've never heard of that happening. Like seriously, what is wrong with people? Like I totally understand feeling jaded or somehow feeling hurt by other people's decisions in the past, but this goes to a whole different level. Like this person literally said, hey, once you give me my groceries, I'm going to tip. They didn't say to this delivery driver, I'm not going to tip you, so just give me my food. Like, no, that's not what happened. There's no justification for taking their groceries and running off. Talk about losing your job faster than you got it. All they had to do was give them their groceries and then this person would have tipped them. And I completely agree, 10 to 15% is totally reasonable. So this delivery driver was just way out of line. There's no reason to act that way. And also, on some of the points that they made, I completely agree as well. If I'm going into a restaurant and I'm picking up food that I ordered that I'm gonna pick up, I'm absolutely not gonna tip you. That's just my own personal standard. Like, I'm doing the legwork of picking up my food. You, on the other hand, are just taking my payment, and there's no way I'm gonna tip you for doing that service. Now, on the other hand, in my personal opinion, if someone is waiting on me at a restaurant, or if they're delivering food to my door with like an online order app or something like that, then yes, I will tip them, and I won't go above 10% personally, because I completely agree with the original poster here. Tipping is honestly used, especially in America, as this guilt-tripping tactic just to try and get more money out of the consumer. And that's not fair for me, the customer. Like, for example, in Japan, you don't tip at all. People do not tip their waiters or service workers, and the store and the business still functions just fine. and it's hopefully some kind of livable wage where they don't have to expect something extra on top of the already expensive bill. So I am personally all on board with what the original poster is saying, and I think in some specific circumstances, you really just should not tip the worker in the slightest. But what would you do in this situation? What would you do if some condescending worker ran off with your groceries if you didn't tip them right away? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius? Check it out, link down below in the description. My coworker's entitled father goes off on an angry rampage, forcing our office to go into lockdown, with my coworker's dad eventually getting arrested and thrown in jail. Here's what happened. So we have a person who works at our office. We'll call her Catherine, that's not her real name. And Catherine started working with us about a year ago. They're very relaxed and very easygoing to get along with. She's a very good worker, excellent attention to detail, but didn't really talk much about her personal life. Some days she can go by without saying a word to anybody. I always assumed it was because in our office, we are mostly all on the autistic spectrum, and she always talks without looking at the person she was speaking with, speaking mostly down to the ground. One day, around 7 to 8 months ago, her parents randomly showed up in our lobby and were screaming and demanding to speak to her. They appeared absolutely drunk and they were trespassed. She went home for the rest of the day, as it clearly must have taken some time for her parents to track her down to actually find out where she worked. She was really paranoid about social media or any pictures of her being taken. We didn't fully comprehend it until one particular incident. What I previously couldn't wrap my head around is why these parents would go out of their way to get their own daughter in problems at work and then show up and demand that they talk to her. Our team didn't want to pry, but she told us that when she grew up, her parents were really bad alcoholics and she was mostly left at home to fend for herself. We knew that the dad was a bit of a hothead, so our team collectively agreed that if they showed up, we would call the security. The company was very much on her side, but we could tell that there was a lot more to it than we realized. Effectively, they were banned from the building, and she already has enough to get them trespassed and asked to leave. This went into effect about 3 months ago, and no one was any wiser. That is until the fateful day of the incident. We were all working in one of the main wings of our building when a general security alert is raised that someone is on the premises that shouldn't be there. This is normally fine, as we work very close to a public park with a footpath, and there's no fence. So 9 out of 10 times, they don't know that they've entered a private property or that they generally just can't be there. Now, we are not a government facility, but we do deal with government systems when they apply to large-scale, high-end systems that require support. I don't work on those teams, but they do exist within our building, so our security is geared for that level of response should we ever need it in some kind of way. In general, we just pay security to go to the gym and look mean for the most part. Now, to explain, there is 2 sets of doors and a badge turnstile to get to our part of the building. It is basically a man trap. Not exactly the most secure, but you can get through it if your card is authorized. By policy, we can't swipe for another person as they need to go to the security desk. Our security team 99% of the time looks bored and is a mixture of ex-military types, and mostly they're just down to earth and they will speak to anyone or helpfully do their jobs in the office even if it's not security related. So they'll do stuff like picking up packages from the reception desk, deliver it to the person, chase the post office down, stuff like that. On one side of our office from our full glass windows, you can see the public footpath, and the other side overlooked our main car park, which was our main entrance and exit. Around that time, we noticed the alert hasn't passed, and security is rushing to our doors from the inside. All we hear from our security team radio is the words breach, breach, and this is all with security rushing over to us, advising us to go down the fire exit. Basically, someone was there who definitely shouldn't be there, and they would not leave, and was now trying to get into our wing door. At this point, we are all huddled together towards the back and got ready to go to the fire exit. However, security closed the door from us and asked us to stay put. So we consider the facts and we think, okay, so there's a crazy person. Let's not panic about it. We just gotta stay up here and then we should be good until the police arrive. Well, the first person we see is a civil protection car, and it shows up in our car park. Okay, generally these are called if the situation is minor and there is no need for any kind of intervention. My thought at this moment is that someone was just lost and probably doesn't speak the language downstairs. These guys can basically double as tourist police. At this point, we don't know where this person is, as they seem to be moving around following the radio chatter, with a simple request of asking if they can drop this idiot. Now, the person at the reception desk is a former soldier who didn't always get along with anybody, but is not the type of person you want to be upset. A few minutes later, we hear on the security radios the phrase phrase blue 1, red 1, black, which didn't make sense to us, but it did seem to cause security on our floor to flip the nearest tables to the doors. And they did this toward the main door to block the entrance to our wing. At this point, the rest of us were very concerned. They had a makeshift barricade. This is clearly not an overreaction. So we're thinking, what in the world is going on? We then hear over the radio, secure 1, secure 2, secure 3, followed by lock down the wing west, which apparently meant that we could not use the fire exits. Eventually, we watch as local police and then national police race through our car park with blue lights flashing to our building. Okay, now this is getting a bit concerning. They rush into our building, but we can't see what is happening downstairs due to the angle from our windows not matching up to the main entrance. We see what looks like all of the site security downstairs running to the outside of our entrance. We wait another few minutes until the phrase black was being declared and that we should let the police into all the wings effectively immediately. Now, mind you, all of this was happening in Spanish, and my understanding of Spanish isn't the best at times, but our security team immediately goes to Catherine. I think at that moment, we know who has to be downstairs. It has to be her dad. I mean, he couldn't have caused that much trouble, right? Most of our security team knows how to handle themselves. Maybe he's just trying to speak to Catherine again. But no, I was completely wrong. In the meantime, we see Catherine start to cry, and in our car park, we see the civil guard, and this is a very bad sign. There are blue lights flashing and what looks like to be a massive truck. We didn't know it at the time, but it's a very specialized fire truck. Catherine, upon seeing this, is an emotional wreck to the point that I've never seen anything like this ever. All we hear her say is that he's doing it again. We try to console her, but we've clearly lost the capability. Security manages to get her moving to the toilets on our floor to clean herself up. We hear screaming and shouting outside our main door to our wing, shouting out Catherine's name. There was screaming back from Catherine, and let me tell you, none of the conversation was pleasant. Now, the passage of time at this point was very confusing. I couldn't tell if it had been 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 3 hours. All I know by the time things had calmed down was that it was dark outside. We finally get out of the wing and we're told to avoid the main area. Catherine gets escorted out of the fire exit and the security and the police decide to go with her. Now, here's the aftermath of what happened. Her drunken dad, after getting a criminal trespass and also a restraining order and a foreign protection order for good measure, decided it was now a very good idea to drive to our office to speak to her about breaking up the family and tell everyone on our main desk that it was her fault. Everything apparently was her fault. Him being drunk, his wife being drunk, her mother's family wanting nothing to do with him, the JFK situation, the fake moon landing, you name it, this guy was saying it. Now, security had asked him to leave, but this guy escalated this in a serious way, and he got incredibly hostile as a result. He basically gave security the idea that he had some kind of trap for her, and in that situation, they asked him what he was planning to do, and he just said that it's gonna be really big. So security by design locked down the building and had to clear every entrance and exit of any potential problems. This turned into a nothing burger because there literally was no problem in the first place. It's just him being drunk, thinking that it would be a brilliant idea to try and say something like this. Naturally, after that exchange, they called the police. He then tried to actually attack the police officers. Acting on the information they had, they knew that he had an exceptionally long history of violence, as well as a history of being arrested. And the police were looking for evidence to put him down for a long time. And frankly, even the police hated dealing with him. Generally speaking, when the office responding to you knows your name upon seeing you, you're doing something incredibly wrong. Most, if not all of us in the office, tried to start talking to Catherine more. We didn't completely know how to deal with this, but she did eventually open up to us more. And when she told us her childhood, it reduced me to tears. There was no food in the house, and she had to ensure that her siblings were fed, all the way up to the point of stealing, until she was old enough to work as a child. The reason why she was so good at her job was because she had about 10 years of experience ahead of all of us, and that was what made her money to feed her younger sisters. She dropped out of school and was looking after them, making sure that they were fed well before her. I struggled with this because I couldn't imagine living through that. To put a child through that and expect them to be cordial, I just will never understand that. And as for the parents, well, he's in prison, and her supposed mother blames her for him being arrested. Apparently, they were just wanting to speak to her about money, and this entire incident was done by the request of her mother. Now, we look after our coworker a lot more, and we try to invite her out. She has opened up with us a lot and talks to us a lot more. One thing is that she does have a fear of abandonment that we work through, even if a few minutes late. We totally understand her. We try to make sure she's included in everything that we do. And despite her awful parents, she is a good person, and she deserves so much more in this world than they have ever tried to give her. The original poster's coworker has awful parents. What on earth are they thinking? They seriously only came to her to try and get money. They also neglected her when she was younger and did not give her the upbringing that she absolutely deserved. I mean, this is a crazy circumstance. I can't imagine having a job and worrying all the time that my parents are going to show up and try and ruin it for me. But hopefully with her dad in jail, as well as her mom basically being estranged, she can find some kind of peace as well as some kind of friendship with her coworkers. Because with all things considered, she honestly deserves the absolute best. An entitled old man claims that he did not rear-end another woman in a car wash. But after I reviewed the security footage, I put this guy in his place, and I exposed him for the liar that he is. Here's what happened. Several years ago, I worked at a gas station with a car wash. This car wash uses a chain that pulls every vehicle through at the same speed, leaving about 25 feet apart. The car wash was the cause of like 80% of all customer grievances, and this one is a bit different. One weekday afternoon, I was stocking shelves when a young woman and an older man came in together. They spot me and say we need to have a conversation, so I move back behind the counter. I look at him and I say, okay, so what can I do for you? The woman is about to speak when the old man cuts her off. Your car wash damaged my car, both of ours. This is unfortunately not the first time I've heard this, so I asked them how this happened. The woman chimes in and says that both of their cars were in the car wash and that she was ahead of this guy, and the car wash pulled his car into the back of hers really hard. Now this raised some immediate red flags. That is literally impossible. The chain can't pull one vehicle faster or slower than another, so I tell them exactly that. The woman says, is it possible? And at this point, the old man starts to scream, are you calling me a liar? Interrupting the woman and all of us completely. The woman is visibly annoyed at this point. I say to them, what I'm saying is that the car wash couldn't have done that. Either you hit the brakes, ma'am, or you hit the gas, sir. The woman then said, well, I didn't hit the brakes, sounding as though she started second guessing herself. The old man then started screaming back that he's not stupid and he never touched the gas pedal. Now, not to be that guy, but old people are usually the ones who have issues with the car wash, so he was honestly my prime suspect. I said to him, well, thankfully the car wash is lined with cameras, so I'll just go rewind the footage and see what happened exactly. And I say this as easily as possible. At this point, the old man started to cave. He said, oh, that's not necessary. We'll just have my company pay for the damages. So I say to him, well, your company is gonna want to review the footage anyways, so I might as well do that now. At this point, the man looked incredibly nervous. He said, no, let's not waste any more of our time. I exaggeratedly raise an eyebrow at him, and then I glance over to her. She clues in that I'm laying on the pressure to him, and also looks at him suspiciously. Now it's time to twist the knife. So I look at him and I say, oh, but sir, surely the camera footage will prove your innocence, right? And that's when everything went silent. Yep, it was him. He was the problem. So I review the footage, and sure enough, while he was pulled up by the chain at first, he hit the gas and rear-ended her. I came back behind the counter and I look at the woman. Well, it turns out he hit the gas and rear-ended you. Now, even though it happened in the car wash, it wasn't caused by the car wash. So this matter will have to be resolved between the two of you. If you would like the camera footage to provide to insurance, I would be happy to give it to you. I look over at the old man with a smile, and he was clearly not happy with this result. He knew he was in trouble, and he knew that he was at fault. She thanked me, looks over to him, and says, it's time for you to pay up. And it was honestly all incredibly satisfying to watch it go down. Honestly, the one thing I've learned from corporate America, or even just working in customer service, it's that when someone is angry or someone is overly frustrated or freaking out in some kind of way, that means they're clearly trying to play an angle and they're trying to play you. And the old man in this story is absolutely fitting the bill. I mean, he is clearly guilty. He rear-ended this lady's car. He hit her when he hit the gas. This lady clearly didn't do anything wrong, and now that there was video evidence, suddenly he's gonna start backpedaling. Because it's funny, at first he was screaming, oh, are you calling me a liar? I didn't do anything wrong. But the second the original poster mentioned any kind of footage that could be reviewed, he suddenly turns into the agreeable, sweet old man, unsure of what's going on. Like, give me a break, buddy. You're caught red-handed and you know what happened. And his reaction to the whole scenario, as well as how he was treating everybody involved, was just so out of line. So hopefully this teaches him a valuable lesson about being honest and nice to those around you. He was very clearly in the wrong, and if he was just a little bit nicer, as well as just a little bit more honest, he could have avoided all this embarrassment, as well as this lady getting this footage that she's definitely going to send to her insurance insurance. An entitled customer claims he's going to sue me as well as everybody in the store, claiming that he slipped and fell. But my manager put him in their place, as she systematically destroyed this entitled customer one step at a time. And it was honestly awesome to see. Here's what happened. So I work at this awful store making $10 an hour and deal with jerks all day. It's located in a trashy part of town with a lot of homeless people and a lot of entitled people. Honestly, if not for the customers, it wouldn't be that bad of a place to work at. So I just got on a shift with one of my supervisors and manager when this one guy walks in and immediately has an attitude. He is short, he's fat, and he's missing his front teeth. It was just me at the front, and the first words out of his mouth were the following:
"Is your manager here? Go get them."
Now, I didn't know which one he was referring to, as a lot of times customers would refer to my supervisors as my managers, and I explained just that to him, hoping he would clarify who he was looking for. I also didn't want to get my manager, as you know, this is an awful part of town, and some of the customers are creeps, like 50-year-old men who hit on 20-something-year-old coworkers. So I asked him if he needed help with anything to figure out why he was looking for my manager, but he doesn't say, and he just snaps at me and says,
"Go get your manager right now."
So I just shrug, and I grab the both of them to deal with him, and this is where I learned why he was here. The guy claimed he was here the night before and had slipped on the wet floor, which I believed at first because I was working the night before and I do remember checking him out, and the floor was wet as I mop almost every single night. I normally wait an hour before closing to mop, hitting areas that I know don't get much foot traffic first, and then finishing the more busier areas after closing, such as the main entrance and stuff like that. But this one night was super busy, and after mopping just one aisle, a line of customers waltz up to the counter and I got busy dealing with them. So I did forget to put up the wet floor signs, and I know this is my bad, and because I forgot, I did get written up. So it was completely possible that he did slip and fall. However, as he talked more and the interaction drew on, it slowly got more and more apparent that he was, to put it frankly, talking out of his rear end. For starters, he said he slipped and fell in a very specific aisle and knocked over an entire shelf full of products. But this aisle he was speaking about happened to be right next to the counter where I was. It also happened to be the aisle for car parts, as well as sprays, flashlights, and stuff like that. So all the stuff he could have knocked over were very heavy, and they were very loud objects that would have gotten everybody's attention. Yet me and my supervisor, the same guy who was working right now, didn't hear anything, let alone see him slip and fall. He also claimed that he told the cashier at the time, who was me, exactly what happened. But guess what? Spoiler alert, he didn't say anything. All he did was buy his stupid Dr. Pepper and then leave the store. He also then claimed he had a recording of him falling, as well as a recording of my supervisor, the one that was working that night, admitting to seeing him fall. Now this really upset my supervisor, as now the guy was straight up lying about him and didn't miss a beat in calling him out. The guy ended up getting louder, now almost shouting that he knew who our direct manager was and that his uncle was a lawyer and that he had a solid case. The two of them traded words, my supervisor keeping his cool and just repeating that he never saw anything and that he didn't see it happen, while the guy repeated he was going to get him fired and also saying,
"I was going to file a complaint, but now I'm just gonna sue you."
He made it clear he was going to sue both the company and my supervisor for his attitude. It was clear that the guy was trying to goat my supervisor into a fight so he could claim we were being hostile. Luckily, my manager got my supervisor to leave and pretty much separated the two. I stuck around though because he wasn't calming down and I wasn't going to leave him alone with my manager. Eventually, my manager gets on the phone to file a complaint on this guy's behalf since he was refusing to do so himself. And when she asked for his name, which was required for filing a complaint, and also because he just threatened legal action against us. And guess what? He refused to give her his name. She even asked for his phone number so they can call him regarding questions, and he refused to tell her that as well. She even asked for a detailed account either by email or letter so HR can know what happened, and he refused to do that as well. He pretty much just refused to give us anything that could be tied to him. My manager then just hands him a list of corporate contacts, and he leaves after once again shouting that he was going to sue and get all three of us fired. I get fairly written up, and now we're having a store meeting, even though I'm not sure if it's tied to this incident or not. My manager did later admit there was nothing on the camera. My supervisor and I chatted about it, and I made it very clear that he came in looking for a fight, and a lot of his story didn't make a whole lot of sense. He marched in, cussed at me, and ended up shouting so loud that he actually scared off a customer. Either way, way, I'm glad my manager handled it in the way that they did, and they perfectly shut down this jerk completely. That guy was being super obnoxious. Let's think about some of the facts here. He tried to claim that he fell down in the store, but also refused to have any kind of complaint attaching him to this claim. And he also said he had a convenient recording of the supervisor, claiming that they had seen the whole thing and that they verified everything. But I find it comical that once this guy is presented with the option of proving anything right, he basically was just like, no, I'm not going to tell you. Like, what are you talking about? If you have a case and you have something that you can file a complaint about, why would you not go ahead and just do it unless you're just lying through your teeth, which is probably a struggle since this guy is missing his front teeth. I mean, what a clown. And I just love how this guy basically lied and said, ooh, my uncle's a lawyer. He's gonna get you. I'm gonna get all you guys fired. This guy is literally just making himself look like a fool, and he seriously deserves to be embarrassed. So I totally agree with the original poster here. The manager handled it perfectly. They got this jerk out of their store, and hopefully they never come back and have this kind of attitude ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My friend basically invited himself to the concert I was planning on going to privately with a small group, and I really don't want him to tag along with my group, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So me and my best friend are planning to go to a concert this summer with my mom. The three of us planned it together, and we are all excited to go together. It got mentioned in passing around another one of my friends who likes the band that we're going to be seeing, and he asked if tickets were still available. I told him yes there were, as it's a lawn concert and those don't sell out fast. He then immediately called off of work to go, and me and my best friend just kind of looked at each other and we were like, what's going on? Now, we didn't invite him to come along with us because we wanted it to just be the three of us. He is a bit older than us and is my brother's best friend first, so he's kind of only a friend by default. We're all close as a group, but to me at least, there's a disconnect there between me and this guy. He's the kind of person that you can only handle in certain amounts. I'm going through an internal struggle and some self-reflection about this because maybe I just don't like him. Or is it normal to not always want certain friends around at every single outing? We get along fine, and we all play board games and video games together. We go on shopping trips on our off days, and we go to the movies and we go to the zoo. Our group is even going to a concert together later this summer, so I don't know why this is so different. Maybe it's because my brother won't be there. I don't know. At the end of the day, he's not the kind of friend I want to hang out with one-on-one very often, if at all. He also had a crush on me in the past, so I don't like being in a one-on-one situation with him. He doesn't do anything or anything like that, but it just makes me uncomfortable the way he looks at me and the way he acts sometimes. He mentioned recently that work gave him the day off so he can go to the concert, and I'm not sure how to bring it up to him that we don't want to go with him. How do I approach this without hurting his feelings? And also, how do I place any kind of boundaries with him? Side note, morally, I feel pretty awful about this. I feel like friends don't treat other friends like this, and normally we would be very happy for a friend to tag along to a concert. What should I do? It sounds like this is one of those friends that is like a friend of your brother's that you've only been friends with because it's been a friend of your brother. So it doesn't sound like you guys are actually friends. And if anything, you're just friends by association. And I totally get where you're coming from. Sometimes in a friend group, there are people that you just don't want to spend time with. Not on like a one-on-one situation, if you will. Sure, they're a part of the general friend group, but when it comes to your personal preferences, there's a reason you didn't invite him to come along with you. He makes you uncomfortable, you don't like the way he acts around you, and overall, it just doesn't make you feel good. And that's your right. You're more than welcome to feel that way. But in my opinion, the way you told him that, yeah, they still have tickets was completely wrong. You should have made it clear from the beginning, especially if you wanted this to be a girls' day out, that it's just that. It's just a girls' day out. You can say that we planned this ahead of time with a private group, and it's just me, my friend, and my mom going to see this concert. Something along those lines. Because the way you said it basically left an opening for this guy to be like, oh, I'm gonna tag along. And he probably thinks that this is fine. He probably just doesn't connect that you don't want him there, especially if you've never had a conversation with him, basically stating just that. So if he brings it up again, maybe ask him who he's going with to this concert, just to try and give him a subtle hint of, hey, you're not invited to my group, but who are you gonna go with? That might be your only out, to be completely honest. At the end of the day though, this is a public event. You can't tell him to just not go. And there is a chance that he might not even interact with you in the slightest. Maybe he has plans to go with other people and you just don't know about it. It doesn't sound like that's been completely spelled out, and it doesn't totally sound like he's gonna tag along with you and your friend. So maybe before you do anything, make sure you get all the information. It would be really awkward to preemptively say, hey, you can't go with us if you're going to this concert, if he had no intention of being around you and your friends in the slightest. But it would also be important to maybe make that boundary known that, hey, it's great that you're going to the concert, but I'm not going to be hanging out with you during it. That way expectations can be set and everyone can just kind of do their own thing. So hopefully whatever actually happens, it all just kind of goes well. Because in my opinion, this absolutely should have been handled a lot better. My girlfriend almost always never completes any task that she starts off, and it's really starting to bother me and I seriously don't know what to do. So my girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years, living together for the last year. I'm starting to notice more and more things that she sets out to do and then drops midway. To better explain this, I'll summarize a couple of examples. For starters, we wanted to buy a different couch and decided on the type and color. I asked her to take a look at some options. I did some looking, I found some links, and several days later, I asked her for her shortlist. And I come to find out that she hasn't even started. After a month, she barely did any research. Eventually, I started asking her about it every day, and she finally finished her part. She also had the idea to custom paint one of the walls in her room. She made a sketch, I took out all of the pictures and furniture, and she outlined the wall with a pen. It has been 4 months since then, and our wall is still white with pen marks all over it. She also insisted that she took care of loading in the laundry. She forgets to do the laundry until the basket is full of dirty clothes, at which point there's like 5 to 6 runs needed to get everything washed. Whenever I take off a dirty shirt, it's usually 7 to 10 days until she loads it in. And because of this, I've started to have to buy more shirts. She will also forget chores or random tasks that I ask her to do. She'll forget to buy something from the grocery store. She'll forget to pick up the mail from the mailbox when she comes in. In fact, the other day, we were going on a trip and I was packing the car up. I called her and I asked her to pack a single pair of beach slippers. And guess what? She forgot that as well. This even happened when we sold our coffee table and we ended up without one for 2 weeks, all the way up until I got so upset for having to set my phone and drink on the floor just to enjoy them. And the latest one is incredibly annoying. She pushed me for weeks to sell our dining table and get a smaller one. It does make sense, we could use more space. So I asked if she has a replacement table in mind, and she said, yeah, I found a couple of stores with pretty good tables. She showed me links and all of that, but she hasn't actually found a replacement. So I sold our dining table 2 weeks ago per her instructions. We are eating on the couch in front of the TV for 2 weeks, even though I've asked her about 5 times if she found any kind of replacement. I'm 100% sure she's not even thinking about it. I don't know how to address this. I mean, am I supposed to take care of everything in our life? Should we do all these things together? Or am I doing something wrong? It's really upsetting me that I can't rely on her to get a single item of furniture that she had literally asked for. It's come to the point where I'm extremely petty about it, and I just want to see how long this will take. I understand this is not healthy, but I have no idea what to do. Honestly, I don't think I can live with someone who is this disorganized and unreliable, as well as someone who doesn't even care about what condition they live in. It might sound harsh, but I really think I am not being unreasonable here. Or maybe I am, and that's why I'm posting this in the first place. What should I do? Honestly, from the sounds of it, and I'm no doctor, but based on my own experience with this, it kind of sounds like she's got ADHD of some kind. Like she clearly has focus issues, she has trouble following through on things, and it doesn't sound like she has a good strategy of how to fix it. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, I don't know what I'm talking about, but maybe that's a possibility of some kind. Like it follows typical patterns that I've seen in my own life, and this is something that I deal with on a daily basis, so I can kind of relate to what's going on. But if talking to a doctor or going that route of like possible medication is not something you want to pursue, then maybe having a more strict schedule and helping her find some kind of accountability would really do some benefit. I always find it super helpful to set reminders on my phone to remind me that, hey, I need to do X, Y, or Z. That way I can move in and do it and just get it done. Post-it notes are also a fantastic tool to try and help me get things done. It reminds me of any task that I need to do, and once it's done, I can throw away the post-it note and I know I've done it. But there are a lot of strategies to help with this type of thing, and I think it really depends on you and your partner. Obviously, it might seem petty to not want to do anything and see how long it'll take, but honestly, I think there needs to be some kind of intervention. I think talking to her about this really could be beneficial for both of you. So hopefully there's some kind of solution here, because based on what you're describing, this honestly does sound really obnoxious. My boyfriend's mom has been giving me the silent treatment ever since we told her that we are moving out, and she has really started a lot of arguments, and I don't know how to deal with this situation. So for a bit of context, my boyfriend is 23 and I'm 26 years old, and his mother is 63. About a month ago, we told her that we are going to be moving in together, and she did not take it well. Technically, I already live on my own, but my boyfriend is the one that will be moving out of his mother's house, and then we will find a place where we will rent together. His mother has been giving me the silent treatment ever since. Even when I greet her, she will just walk right past me. Her goal was for her son to buy a house for the two of them so that she can retire. But now, because we are moving in together, I'm apparently taking him away from her and ruining their plans. So the other day, my boyfriend had a few friends over and we all had dinner together. We were having such a great time, so I said, "Oh, look at us, we're making memories." My boyfriend's mother then said, "These are our final memories." And she started yelling, saying that I was flaunting the fact that I'm apparently stealing her son away from everybody. I said to her, "Hold on, that's not what I meant at all." And then an argument ensued. My boyfriend defended me and she just got even more angry, so she stormed off into her room. A couple days later, it was my birthday, and I celebrated it with my boyfriend and my family. It was such a great day. The next day, I was at my boyfriend's house and his mother was deliberately avoiding me again. My boyfriend asked her why she was ignoring me and why she wasn't wishing me a happy birthday. His mom then started yelling and changed the topic, saying that she refuses to talk to a lazy person because apparently I'm not helping to clean her house. So I got up and said it's not my responsibility to clean her house. And honestly, where should I start? My boyfriend's mother is a severe hoarder, and she had a house inspection that day, so this was the first time in a year that she was even properly cleaning her house and doing any kind of yard work. The yard was literally full of weeds. I mean, how is this my responsibility? I understand that the average person would help out, but I'm sorry, if someone left that house or yard to rot away, then why should I have to clean it for you? I'm a visitor. I don't live there. So she basically called me lazy, a spoiled brat, as well as selfish. For so long, I've been nothing but nice to her. But that day, I was full of so much anger and just told her that she's behaving like a high school bully, and she's choosing to be petty instead of acting her age. I also said that she clearly hates me because she believes that I'm stealing her son away, when any logical woman her age should know that her son is bound to move out at some point and be in a relationship with another woman other than his mother. I also told her that the birthday present I got for her last year, which is a mini tree, I mean, she likes plants after all, completely died because she wasn't watering it. She clearly hated me enough to try and let the tree I bought her dry up and no longer live. And when I said that, she went silent. I spent the rest of that day crying quietly in my room, and my boyfriend was comforting me. It just completely hurts. My family loves and respects my boyfriend, but his family hates me. And don't even get me started on his horrible narcissistic sister. All I've ever wanted was to be accepted into a loving family, and instead I have this nightmare, pathetic excuse of a family. I love my boyfriend so much, but how can I even begin to deal with his family? What can I do to better my mental health while having his family a part of my life? I've already decided I won't visit them anymore, and once we have our own place, they aren't invited. Is this reasonable? What should I do? Honestly, from the sounds of it, it really does not seem like they want to be a part of your life. Like they actively treat you like garbage, and they're trying to pretend like you're stealing away their son. Like that's not how this works at all. He is bound to move out of that house, and she was probably just banking on her son basically buying her a house eventually. Like the mom in this situation literally just sounds lazy, and she was probably just banking on the fact that, hey, maybe he'll get me a house and I can retire. Like, come on, how could you possibly put that kind of pressure on your son like that? That's not fair, and it doesn't allow him to do anything with his life. Like, does your boyfriend's mom really think that he's gonna be living with her for the rest of his life? Like, come on, he's gotta get out there and have his own life eventually, right? If I was in your shoes, I probably would not spend any more time with her. I've got much better things to do, and I honestly have my own life waiting in front of me. Like, you are not in the wrong here. You've done everything you can to try and be on some kind of good terms with his mom, but it does not sound like she wants to play ball in the slightest. So truly, if you want to be with this guy, I just would expect her to give you the cold shoulder and for her to be nasty and really mean. And you don't deserve that in the slightest, but it kind of seems like this is what's going to come along with the territory. My boyfriend makes me feel bad about my job and is constantly downplaying how stressed out and mentally ill I feel. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years. My boyfriend is very successful and has a great career. Meanwhile, I'm a university dropout who works a minimum wage job. I grew up poor and I didn't have any sort of support system, and I struggle with depression and anxiety. My boyfriend, however, hasn't experienced any of those things. I don't think my boyfriend intends to do this, but he always makes me feel bad about my life. I feel like he secretly is ashamed of me because of my financial situation, as well as the job that I hold. Whenever I talk about stressful things that happen at work, he always mentions that it's an awful job with low pay and that I shouldn't care so much about it. I also feel 10 times worse about myself when he constantly mentions how well his friends are doing and how they have amazing careers. He also doesn't believe in mental health issues, so it's really difficult for me to explain to him why I am unable to do certain things or why I am the way that I am. How can I approach him about this topic? What should I do? I've got to be honest, there's a lot of red flags here. The biggest one that I can see is the fact that your boyfriend doesn't believe in mental health issues. That is honestly ridiculous and seriously so toxic. And you know what? Who cares if you're a university dropout? Who cares if you work a minimum wage job? You know what? You're working and you're doing the best that you can. You can always go back to school if you really wanted to, and this is not the end-all be-all. The fact that he's being so dismissive of your life and the way you feel is really toxic in my opinion. There's no reason for him to act like that. If he cared, he would be more involved in your life and maybe even trying to help you find a better job instead of just being like, I don't know why you care about this job so much. And you know what? Some of those minimum wage jobs are way more stressful than anything else that's higher up. There's a good chance you work with the public, and guess what? The public is absolutely awful sometimes. There are silver linings, but you know what? For the most part, people can be absolutely miserable when you're trying to serve them. So I would not let your boyfriend get under your skin. He clearly does not have the perspective that you do, and he seriously needs to change his perspective because you know what? You're doing the best that you can. And if he can't see that, then you know what? That's his problem, not yours. My entitled ex-wife tries to lie and ruin my life after she's caught having an affair with another man. She even went as far as calling the police, claiming that I was a danger to her life. But after having video footage proving her wrong, I eventually took her to divorce court and not only got full custody of our kids, but also prevented her from getting anything from me in return. And I've never been more happy to have my life back. Here's what happened. So for those of you who remember me, I'm the guy whose wife made our kids release a wild bunny in the middle of our yard after I advised her to have the kids take it to the bushes just to try and release it safely. And well, as you could imagine, a hawk took the bunny right in front of both of our children and they freaked out on their mother. They then came running back in tears. Our kids then started calling their mother the Bunny Destroyer, and that name seems apt right about now. And other people called her that as well after her affair got out. I'm now speaking as a free man after finishing up divorce a couple of months ago, so buckle up, this is a long one. So I did show my wife my original post about the bunny, and she was very angry with me, so much so that it caused a bad fight. And after it, I got the silent treatment for another week. I tried to make my kids stop mistreating their mother after the bunny incident, even with being punished by small groundings and timeouts. But the Bunny Destroyer nickname just kept coming back every time our kids got angry with their mother. My wife let up her cold shoulder routine after a couple of weeks and eventually conceded that she should have listened to me about the bunny and should have taken it to the bushes like I said. She claimed that she felt that she needed to defend herself because she didn't want to be wrong. Well, I accepted that apology and apologized myself for even making that post online in the first place. I wanted us to go to marriage counseling, but she refused. She acted like there was nothing wrong with our marriage, and I decided to not push the issue any further since things were seemingly getting along a lot better. But after a few weeks, my oldest came to me saying that she wanted to tell me something. There was another reason why she was so mad at her mother, and it was more than just the bunny incident, but she was scared to tell me. I comforted her and I told her that she could tell me anything. Well, what she said shocked me and changed everything in an instant. She said that for months, Mama had been bringing a man over some Saturdays I was at work and had referred to him as her special friend. She even got her kids to keep quiet about it by various means of bribery. But my eldest realized that something was very wrong with it and spent some time working up the courage to tell me. Kids know things and they pick up on stuff very quickly, and I really dislike it when people dismiss those facts. I had noticed that my wife is acting a bit different lately. She had been more short with everyone, especially the kids. I tried talking to her about it when I showed her my first post, and she just went off on me about any little thing she could think of. She insulted my appearance, my character, my habits. She even insulted my side of the family. She even brought up that I used to smoke, even though I quit over 10 years ago. Then she resorted to locking me out of the bedroom and crying so loud that everybody in the house could hear it. So my eldest came to me and I ended up putting 2 and 2 together. She was cheating, and her behavior was very similar to the mood swings that she had while pregnant with both of our children. And I say similar because it was even worse. From what I've gathered searching online and what friends friends and even a counselor have told me, my wife was both very moody from hormones and projecting because of her infidelity. I can't claim to be an expert in psychology, but it does seem to make sense. I wanted this all to be a misunderstanding, but I quickly ordered and set up a few hidden cameras without anyone knowing. I had them delivered to my work just so no one at home would see them. Then I set them up on a day with my wife out to have a girls' night with her friends. It was very easy to hook them up and connect them to the Wi-Fi. In just a few short hours, I could monitor every part of the house from my home PC, as well as my laptop and work PC. At first, I was worried that I might have been going overboard. I thought if it turned out I was wrong, then I could remove the cameras and no one would ever know. But no, my worst fears were confirmed as I got plenty of evidence in just the first week. The man my wife had taken as her affair partner is a former colleague of hers. I remember him quite well as they both seemed close with my wife whenever I met him at various functions. My wife quit her job years ago to be a full-time mom after getting pregnant with our first. It was a mutual decision for both of us at the time. My wife stayed connected with her former coworkers as they were her best friends, but not anymore, because what I'm about to tell you has pretty much made her hated by everyone. Firstly, her affair partner is younger than my wife by about a decade. She mentored him at her former job to fill a position when she left, and the two of them stayed very close, and I mean very close. My wife and I are both over the age of 40, but you would not know it from looking at her. She is positively stunning. She got mistaken for someone in their 20s quite a lot, and I guess she capitalized on that. I ended up confiding to my sister about what was going on and showed her the footage from the nanny cams. She told me she suspected this for a while and said that she'd seen my wife once at a local bar getting a little bit too close with a man that wasn't me, but they never kissed or anything like that while she was watching, just a lot of touching on the shoulders and lower back, and since she wasn't sure, she didn't tell me sooner. I ended up offering a GPS tracker as well, and after I got it working, I hid it in the trunk of my wife's car. My sister and her husband agreed to help me and follow the tracker on my wife's next supposed night out with her friends. She went to a completely different place 20 miles further away than where she usually goes, and from there she would meet up with the affair partner. Now, my sister and my brother-in-law observed them for some time from their car. They noticed that the affair partner kept rubbing her belly while they were talking, and they recorded video of this too. When I saw the footage, I knew she had to be pregnant with a baby, since she was so moody at home. My sister and brother-in-law had to calm me down because I turned into a complete mess. I wanted to self-medicate with alcohol, but my sister very correctly told me that drinking was the worst thing I could do at a moment like this. Later, I decided to take a leave from work, but told my wife I was actually going to be on a business trip. And when she heard this news, she literally could not have been more excited about it, and didn't even try very hard to hide her glee that I would be leaving for a while. I mean, who is this woman? She is certainly not the one I married almost 20 years ago, right? Did someone who looks exactly like her just take her place one day? I mean, did I even know her? She felt like an alien to me. The more I thought about it, the less it made sense to me. So my conclusion was that trying to make sense of anything wouldn't do me any good. I had cameras all over that house, and my sister and brother-in-law agreed to take my kids for a few days because they love visiting auntie and uncle in the city. This gave my wife the exact opening that she wanted. She called her affair partner only a few hours after I left, and he showed up that evening to spend the night. I won't go into any details about what they did around the house. You can fill in those details yourself. But on top of all that, they were joking about me continuously. They openly talked about their baby and how they needed to figure out what to do before her belly starts to show, as she was already over 3 months along by then, and there was no way it could be passed off as mine, especially since the affair partner is a different race than me, so it would be pretty easy to tell that the baby wouldn't be mine from birth. My wife brushed her affair partner's concerns aside and said that they had months to figure it out. Then she shamelessly admitted that this wasn't even her first affair, as she had spent some quality time with another man when she was 29 years old. She told her affair partner that she was sick of having to act like the good housewife, and how she was tired of being around a boring man like myself that made her feel old. And if it wasn't for me being so financially stable, she would have left me a long time ago. Even her affair partner asked her about what her plan was for her kids, and her exact words were to say that I can have them. She didn't even want to be around our kids anymore because she thought that they liked me better, and she would soon be having her own do-over baby again anyways. I very nearly threw the laptop on the floor in the motel room because I was so disgusted. But I contained myself, drank a little bit, and got some dinner at a diner. Then I watched a movie just to try and get my mind straight. After that, I spent half the night just laying there in bed, thinking till I finally fell asleep. I thought I knew my wife so well. I loved her and would have given her all that I had to give. But in the end, some people are just evil, and you can never really know who they are until they reveal their true self. I made up my mind right then and there to destroy her in divorce. I'm normally a very calm and collected man, but get me angry enough and I can become your worst nightmare. I went to see a law firm for divorce lawyers the very next day and asked for the meanest lawyer that they had. I live in an at-fault state, so my wife was in serious trouble the moment I had her affair on camera. The lawyer was initially apprehensive that I wanted to hire him so quickly until I explained my situation in more detail, and I even showed him some of the video footage, and that's when he got a devilish grin on his face and we shook hands. He said that he would start right away because this was the kind of case divorce lawyers love to dig their teeth into. I had my wife served a few weeks later on a day I was working from home, and the kids were thankfully in school. The eldest is in kindergarten and the youngest is in preschool. The papers were delivered right to my wife's hand by the local sheriff. The cameras caught it all. She looked scared while she opened the envelope, read the contents, and then lost her mind. She came running into my office to scream at me, but I remained cool and collected the entire time. I was already completely mentally checked out of our marriage. My wife wanted to argue, but I just told her I'd made up my mind. I wanted her out of my house. I'm the only one who's ever paid the mortgage. She screamed at me that I can't do this to her, and then she actually threatened to tell people that I was hurting her if I took her to court, and she would get me fired from my job to boot. I told her to go right ahead and make up any lie that she wants. It won't help her. I mean, it's not like she wasn't planning on screwing me over since she's pregnant with her affair partner's baby anyways. When I said that, she went wide-eyed and asked me how much I knew. I just said that I knew enough, and I told her once again that I wanted her to leave. She refused and said it was just as much her house as it was mine. Then she locked herself in the bedroom. I saw on the bedroom cameras that she was having a meltdown and then pulling her phone out and calling the police. She was acting like she was in complete panic, but there was a huge smile on her face while she was doing it. She was quite the actress after all. I would have believed this performance over the phone in a heartbeat if I didn't already know that she was a liar. I waited for the police with the front door wide open and told them to come in when they arrived. They were initially hot-blooded and ready for a showdown, but the house was clean, there was no sign of any sort of fight. My wife came running out of the bedroom and grabbed the vest of the officer while crying and saying that I was a maniac. I then asked one of the other officers to let me show them evidence of what is really going on, and he agreed. And when I said this really startled my wife, as she was not aware that I had recorded her. I showed the officer the footage from the camera on my laptop, showing that my wife was saying that she'd make up all this stuff just to try and ruin my life. Then I showed the footage from the living room after she ran out of my office and into the master bedroom down the hall. And then I showed the footage from the camera in the bedroom of her calling the police and just straight up lying. I had recorded it all, and from multiple angles at that. And even though she claimed to the police that I had supposedly hit her, there was not only no marks on her, but the cameras all around the house showed a completely different story. Then I handed the police a thumb drive and said it had all the video footage they needed of her calling them under false pretenses. My wife, even in the face of all of this evidence, stuck to her lie, saying that I was a horrible person, and even tried to say the recordings were illegal and therefore inadmissible. But I pointed out that they are legal because they were security cameras inside of my own home and not recorded in public. My wife looked at the police officer and told them to please do something, to which they absolutely did, because she was the one put in handcuffs, and she started bawling like a child. I could only sit there shaking my head. This was once the woman I'd loved so much for so many years. I thought she was a wonderful, intelligent, and endearing person, but I couldn't have been more wrong. As the police took her away, she screamed that they couldn't do this to her, but didn't fight back much. Otherwise, resisting arrest would have been added to her charges. I then shut down all of her credit cards that were in my name and stopped any future payments into the joint bank account. So she had to use entirely her own money to bail herself out of jail. She had saved plenty of money all those years that she was still working, while the mortgage was only on me. So she was literally anything but broke. She came back for her car, which I had taken the liberty of packing a few of her suitcases full of her clothes, as well as some other things, and left the the key on the seat, so she wasn't even able to come back into the house. My wife's parents did come to speak to me a day after she bailed herself out of jail. Initially, they only had the backstories of what she told them, which was basically the same thing she tried to tell the police. Her father especially was ready to attack me. He is old, but he's also very big and very strong. But when I asked him if he knew anything about my wife's affair or her pregnancy, he looked very surprised and thankfully gave me the chance to explain myself. So I pulled out the laptop again and I showed my in-laws what I had recorded. And when they found out the truth, they were disgusted and said that they couldn't believe this person was their daughter. They apologized to me and said that they would keep in touch to help out with my kids. Then they called my wife on speakerphone right in front of me and confronted her about all of her lies. She tried to double down until they said that they were with me and that they had seen the recordings. They said that they knew everything and they wanted her out of her house immediately. She tried to backpedal, but my in-laws said that they did not raise their daughter to act this way and they were astonished that she would try to frame her own husband, and she was no longer their daughter. They disowned her over the phone right then and there, and then hung up before my wife could say anything else. She tried calling back, but they ignored her every attempt. And when they got home, not only was she gone, but she had destroyed several things around the house, which my mother-in-law was in tears about. Now, I still consider my ex's parents my in-laws because they still would drop in from time to time just to see their grandchildren. But my ex, on the other hand, is effectively non-existent to us. My wife later came back with her affair partner in tow to pack her things. The affair partner wouldn't even come into the house, and my wife refused to speak a word to me, all while gathering her remaining belongings. She knew there were cameras everywhere, and she would only dig herself a bigger grave if she tried anything else. I wasn't alone either, as my sister and brother-in-law were there to keep an eye on her. My brother-in-law made sure to keep his eye on the affair partner from the window. My wife was still packing when the kids got home, and she made no attempt to speak to them either, not even when our youngest was crying for her. Before leaving, she did take a few of the photos that we had of each other from our wedding off the wall and threw them on the floor just to break them. I think she was expecting a reaction out of me because of the way she looked at me while doing it, but since I didn't say anything, she just took the last of her bags and walked out the door. After she was gone, I had to call my elderly mother to come stay with me for a while because I couldn't take care of the kids alone. I couldn't take a lot of time off of work, and I didn't have a lot of daycare options either. And you know what? I also ordered DNA tests for my kids because even though I was sure that they were mine, several people told me that just in case I had to know. And thankfully, yes, both of my children are mine. About a week later, my wife showed up at my door saying that she would agree to a clean divorce if I did as well, meaning that she would have gotten half of everything if I had agreed. But I straight up said no to her face. There was some fighting back and forth, and she more or less admitted to finding out that the law in this state was definitely not on her side. After all, we met, we got engaged, and got married and lived our whole lives in this state. There was no way she could get out of taking a major loss unless I agreed to settle, which I absolutely did not. Then I said that she betrayed me, our kids, her parents, and practically everyone by having this affair. I then slammed the door in her face. She quietly left and I didn't see her again until court. A few months later in divorce court, my wife was visibly quite pregnant by then, and she had gotten a lawyer as well. The affair partner was nowhere to be seen. I expected her to try and lie to the judge, which she started to do a few times, but I had enough video evidence to refute any of her lies, so she really didn't have any kind of chance to win this. So instead, she just kind of dragged out the divorce by simply refusing to cooperate and making various demands. She wanted most of my savings for starters, and she wanted a long list of other things that I own, and she wanted me to buy out of her half of the house, even though she never paid into it. On my end, I was pushing for full custody of the kids and to get her name off of the deed of my house. After all, I had the video evidence to back up how she said that she didn't even care about our children anymore and how she would make up all these lies just to hurt my reputation. My wife tried to stall and repeatedly would change her demands, but the judge didn't let her keep dragging things out. This being an at-fault state meant that she was entitled to very little since she was the one who committed the affair, and her attempting to frame me only made her case even worse. In the end, she lost all custody of our kids and walked away with nothing more than her belongings, and that honestly could be considered a fair financial settlement considering the circumstances, as well as the car I'd previously bought for her. The title was in my name, but I signed it over without any care in in the world as part of the settlement. She made no attempts to even speak to our kids during the entire divorce anyways, so I ended up getting full custody. The house is entirely mine now, and I'm completely free of this crazy woman. My now ex-wife did try to keep up with her lies about me to others before and during the divorce, but my sister spread word around of my wife's infidelity, and soon all mutual friends cut her off when they realized who was telling the truth. She and her affair partner left town together after the divorce ended. I heard that the affair partner wasn't fired, but he was transferred. Where he got transferred to, who knows? But I do know that my ex had to go with him. They could have transferred him and my ex to freeze in Greenland for all I care. I'm just happy that they've both left. My ex should have had her do-over baby by now, and I hope it was all worth it to her. Now, this is not what I expected to be posting online after just talking about my wife releasing a bunny where a hawk could get it. But many of the comments I previously got about the way that my wife was acting made me realize that I should have been paying attention to the red flags a long time ago. I guess I just kept rose-tinted glasses on for the entirety of our marriage. But it's all over now, and I'm so thankful that I have my life to live. What an unbelievable situation. This lady went around behind her husband's back and did stuff that was absolutely inexcusable. She didn't care about her kids. She just wanted to have a do-over baby. She's been cheating on this guy for years, and she actively tried to lie and say that he was hurting her, as well as doing all these other horrible things just to try and ruin his life. Like, that is honestly crazy to me. This guy seriously deserves so much better, and this entitled Karen of a wife got exactly what she deserved. She lost everything. She didn't get a cent from this guy except for maybe the car, and he was able to move on with his life with his kids. Those kids deserve so much better than that horrible mother. I mean, she said it best. She literally did not care about this guy or his kids in the slightest. And that was some smart thinking by the original poster. They got cameras, they set it up in their house, and they got all the evidence they would ever need. Without those cameras, his case would have been absolutely thrown away. He would have had no proof of what was happening, and his wife very easily could have gotten him in trouble for something that he wasn't doing. So I really hope the original poster is happy with the life they finally earned. They got their cheating wife away from their children, and he moved on and now hopefully has a good life. And hopefully, for the sake of him and his kids, his life improved substantially after having to endure his ex-wife's lies as well as her blatant slander. My entitled manager goes on a rampage and a power trip, telling everybody to come an hour early for an event, demanding that we all need to listen to her because she's older and she knows best. But as a result, no one sticks around, and she is forced to clean up this entire event by herself. And I've never been more satisfied by a result in my life. Here's what happened. So I used to work part-time for my university running student events. Experience is the best teacher. I'd participate in these events as a student, assisted in these events under someone else as part of my scholarship, and as a staff member ran the events by myself. We had a new college head who was much older, approximately 50 or 60 years old, while everyone else was in their early 20s. And this is the entitled Karen of the story. She was the most pig-headed, arrogant fool you can possibly imagine. And despite being new, she wouldn't sit back and observe how things worked or listen to those on our team who had been there for years. No matter what you told her, when she announced something that wouldn't work or would cause problems, the answer was always the same. I'm older than you, so I know best. And it wouldn't matter if it would take longer to do it. It was her way or the highway. During the event planning, one look at the schedule told me that she had not allocated the team properly, so I sent out an email to try and get this figured out. I said to her, "Ma'am, it's probably not a good idea to have the whole team in an hour before the event. Most of them will just be standing around doing nothing. The best plan is to get 5 or so people in for setup, most of the team in for running the event itself, and then hold back another 3 to 4 for cleanup." This entitled Karen responded to me by saying the following: "No, I want everyone in helping out equally an hour before the event." So I responded by explaining that they're only meant to do 2 hours of work per event, and if you have them an hour early for a 2-hour event, that'll end up being 3 hours. They'll all have to leave before cleanup. The slackers will slack off, and the proactives will end up doing everything. But the entitled Karen said exactly what you were expecting. She said to me, "I'm older than you, so I know best. Just do as you're told." And this is when our malicious compliance began. I said to her, "Fine, but I've got some personal business to do directly after the event. I'll happily handle procurement and setup, but we'll need to leave right after the event is over." The entitled Karen said that was fine, and we just moved on with our day. The day of the event, and the whole team showed up an hour before the setup. As expected, 5 or so did all the setup work, work, while most of the team literally stood around on their phones. Some of them even got bored and wandered off. It was not the team members' fault for standing around. Only so many people can do meal prep and set tables up without getting in each other's way. 10 minutes before the event, the entitled Karen shows up and everything is running smoothly. The event was a lot of fun. Some of the team continued to wander off, some ran the events, and some even participated. I was running around as a gopher, letting the entitled Karen take credit for the event in front of everyone. I made sure to remind her that I had to leave right at the end of the event for personal business, and I said this in front of my other colleagues many times. To be extra spiteful, I neglected to stop several team members from wandering off who had done no work other than stand around, as well as talking and eating. And I even encouraged some other people who definitely had done 2 hours worth of work to call it a night, and I thanked them for their help. And forgetful me, I also didn't tell my team members standing around during the events to start cleaning up as things were finishing. All the free food was gone, all the games were over, and both the team members and the students were wandering off into the night. And that's when it all suddenly occurred to this entitled Karen. She screamed out, "Wait, where are you going? There is so much mess, and we've got to put away all the tables and tidy up all the different games. Everybody has left. What is going on?" I responded to her by saying, "Well, yes, we probably should have saved up a few team members to try and do cleanup, but they've all already done their 2 hours. Anyway, like I told you earlier, I've got some personal business to attend to, so I will see you tomorrow." This entitled Karen just about exploded. She said to me, "What personal business is it? This will take over an hour to do all by myself." I responded by saying, "I'm sorry, but I said it's my personal business because I wasn't comfortable discussing it with you or with the team, and it really is quite personal, and I'm gonna be late." I wandered off home for my personal business of closing all my curtains and playing Xbox in my underwear, chuckling at the thought of that arrogant entitled Karen having to do all that work by herself. The formal complaint that she put in for me leaving early didn't really go anywhere, as I just forwarded them the email exchanged to management. Eventually, I quit, and I honestly never looked back. That entitled Karen really should have listened to their colleagues. They should have said, okay, maybe they know something that I don't. Maybe they know exactly how to do this, and I just need to shut up and listen. Like literally, if this entitled Karen had just listened to what this guy was saying, they could have easily had this properly planned out. But instead, they quite literally got the short end of the stick. And based on their attitude and the way they were acting, they seriously deserve it. Like their attitude was so wrong. They came in there and basically tried to run the place without getting a feel for like how things are going, you know, like a normal new manager would do. So hopefully the next time they have some kind of event going on, she will at least be able to schedule people properly, because I bet this is a lesson that she is not going to soon forget. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My fiance won't stop going to the place of business that another man works at that she spent some quality time with and cheated on me with. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So for a bit of context, I'm 30 years old and my fiance is 28, and we've been together for just over 5 years. But in December of 2021, we split up due to her cheating on me with a coworker of hers. They were both higher up managers at a very well-known department store. She had been seeing him for a few months before I found out, and I chose to leave her over it. We began to start talking again shortly after, and by May of 2022, the relationship that she had was toxic, and she told me it just made her realize how much she missed being with me and how wrong she was for everything, and how much better things were with us. So we decided to try and work things out, and for the most part, this last year has been great with almost no issues. That is, except for one major glaring red flag. She keeps going back to his job. She no longer works there, and about a month or two into their relationship, she chose to leave and avoid issues with their relationship and not risk either of their jobs, and has worked somewhere new for over a year before we got back together. Now, I've tried talking to her calmly and rationally about why it bothers me that she keeps going back to the place her ex works, but she insists that it's only because she loves to shop there and also doesn't want to be controlled or told where she can and can't go, and doesn't want a relationship or a mistake to prevent her from going somewhere that she loves, which to an extent I can understand that, and is the reason I haven't blown up about it and made a huge deal about it. But she does keep going back. She doesn't really seem to care that it bothers me, and it doesn't really make sense to me. There's a ton of places in town that she could buy clothes from, not to mention ordering online, but she insists on going back to that place specifically, not to mention the fact that there's another one of these stores not even 30 minutes away from where we live, but she keeps going back to this one specifically. Am I being crazy and controlling? Should I just let this go? I'm usually pretty good at figuring out when I'm being rational and when I'm not, but I genuinely can't tell how I should handle this, and I seriously don't know what to do. I think you need to be more honest with your fiance and tell her straight up, listen, I don't like you going to that place because this is where you cheated on me. Like, really use that word and explain to her, hey, you cheated on me. This is not fair for me, and I really don't like the way you're treating me. Her constantly going back there, even though there is an alternative that she could go to if she really wanted to shop there, is in my opinion incredibly toxic, and it's not something that I would take sitting down. She needs to understand that this has got to be off limits, especially if you want this to work. So no, you're not crazy. It really does seem like she's only going back to this store just so she can try and get back in contact with a guy that she cheated on you with. And it is unfortunate because she's already shown that she doesn't really care about you when it comes to cheating. And this wasn't just like a one-time mistake either. She was doing this for months until you found out about it. That's literally who she is. So I really think some serious changes need to be made. And this is not a problem that you've caused in the slightest. This absolutely originates from her, and she needs to step up and do better. Otherwise, this relationship is going to fall apart. My girlfriend has lost 5 jobs in a row, and we've broken up twice. And I'm honestly not sure how to salvage this relationship, and I seriously don't know what to do. So I met my girlfriend over Discord 3 years ago, and 1 year after that, we really got to know each other better. I have never loved someone else so much in my life. In fact, I loved her so much that I flew across the country just to see her in person. I always knew that she had a really difficult childhood, and her mother never really understood why she was so sad all the time. And that lack of understanding inside her own house was becoming very dangerous for her, and her mental health really took a plunge. Her self-esteem is really fragile as well, and that is the reason of many issues. 7 months after we started a long-distance relationship, she tried to hurt herself in some serious ways, if you know what I mean, and this all had to do with her mental health, and I wouldn't bear to see that happening, so I took all my life savings and told her that we would move together and that I would take care of her, meaning that she would finally move out of her mom's house. Since we were starting to live by ourselves, I started to encourage her to think about finding a job, and she actually found one in less than a month, being a cashier in retail, and that was already pretty helpful since I was alone paying for everything. With that, we seeked out for some psychological and psychiatric help so that she could start treatment because of everything that she felt and deals with. After 2 months of working at this first job, she was starting to feel really anxious, and the depression was hitting her hard. She struggled every time to calm herself down, and sometimes I needed to go see her in her lunchtime. 1 month later, she got laid off. She did a few interviews again, and soon enough got hired again. I also need to clarify here that we have some amazing quality time together, and we always used to plan our future with a lot of hope and a lot of love. Her mother loves me, and my mother loves her too. We had friends that lived nearby, and we used to see each other all the time until they moved out. After some days of working at this new job, suddenly she simply couldn't get up from bed anymore, and when she got up, she would do everything that she needed to do before going to the job. She would get all dressed up, she would put on her shoes, but the moment she gets out on the street, all those bad thoughts occur. The low self-esteem kicks in, and every time that happens, there is nothing to do besides going back home so that she can sleep and recover from this. And as you would probably guess, she lost this one job soon after some absences because of these events. We lived for another 6 months together, and then I finally snapped. I forced myself every day to stay positive, and I was running up and down trying to solve all her life problems. She, on the other hand, couldn't get up from bed. She couldn't help me do basic chores at home. We didn't even have any more intimacy or romance. So I broke up with her, and I said that she needs to go back to her mother's house or something. Taking that decision was extremely hard because I loved her so much, and I always thought of what could happen if I broke up with her and had to move out from that house that we were living in to go back to my mother's house. After 2 months, we started talking to each other again in distance. She told me she was doing better after a friend offered to pay a therapist for her. She even made a pretty good amount of money freelancing as an illustrator, and that surprised me so much. What even surprised me more was that she was planning to go back to the city where I lived because it has better opportunities, and that she would live in a hostel until she could afford to live by herself. Now that made me see her quite differently, to the point that we eventually started dating again. I helped her move into this new place, and she seemed really confident, and this is in a way that I've never seen before. She actually found a new job pretty easily again, but unfortunately she lost a job again because she couldn't go to work for the same reasons as before. Now, I didn't let her give up this time. I helped her every day. I helped her apply for jobs. I paid for her bills and I paid for her medication. She did find another job just to lose it again for the same reasons. But I just kept my mind strong just for her. Every time she lost another job, she would get extremely sad, but this time she didn't. Surprisingly, she found yet another job in less than a month. A job where she would really enjoy working there. Not exactly in her desired field, but it's something that was really close. Eventually, she started to not go to work on some days. It triggers me, and all that despair that I felt when I lived together with her comes back. Sometimes she's at work, and she used to tell me how sad she is and how her mental health is really falling apart. And all of this was just so consuming for me again. So much so that I couldn't focus on our relationship again. And as a result, just like a repeat of the last time, we broke up again. And I actually regretted what I did. 2 weeks later, I asked her back, and she told me that she had met someone when some friends took her out to try and distract her from everything. And she ended up spending some quality time with this person. Now that absolutely destroyed me, but she gave me a chance to show her that I was different. We didn't get back together right away, but I kept showing her that I love her and I wanted to be strong again with her. And eventually we did get back together again. She still had issues going on with work. Their bosses were understanding of her mental health until they simply couldn't do it anymore. She worked at this other place for about 7 months, and that's the longest that she's ever worked in a single place in her life. Then she couldn't afford any more where she was living, so I brought her to live with me and my mom. Now I was scared with the possibility of my mom putting too much pressure on me or her, but until now she is being super supportive. A friend that lived with her in the hostel recommended her to a job in her work, and my girlfriend loves this job because it is exactly what she wants to do: graphic design and illustration. But guess what? She is starting to miss out on her job again, and I'm reliving this nightmare all over again. I know that it seems like I only care for money or the job, but I never stopped working through all of this. She actually doesn't even see a therapist anymore because the therapist ghosted her. I don't know what to do. I don't want to break up with her again, but at the same time, I just want everything to be okay. My selfish mind is telling me that if she is away, everything will be better, but also that I want her to be near me because I love her. It's a very controversial story from my point of view because I broke up with her 2 times, but I just want everything to be fine. I want her to feel fulfilled, but I don't have the energy anymore. I feel exhausted, and I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, you've broken up with this woman twice, and you think that she's gonna try and improve in some kind of way. She's proving left and right that she's gonna take advantage of you, and she knows that you or somebody else is gonna save her when she chooses to not go to work. Like, she literally knows what she should be doing, and she knows that she should be going to work. And at this point, after all the steps that have been made to try and help her and get her up on her feet, I think it's time to realize that she simply doesn't want to help herself. I'm honestly just amazed that you're even putting up with this in the slightest. I mean, honestly, if the stove was on and you kept burning your hand on the stove, why would you keep touching it? This is a repeat cycle that's clearly not healthy. Your girlfriend needs professional help, and I think you need a better relationship because your girlfriend is not ready to have this kind of relationship, and I think she needs to do a lot of work on her end to better treat her mental health. My father has written a book that includes details about our family and airs some pretty dirty secrets about all of us that seriously is quite upsetting to me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my father is a fairly successful person. He's not famous or anything like that, but he's definitely well known in his particular field. He has written books before on matters relating to this field, but his latest book is much more personal. It's basically a memoir and partly a self-help book as well, telling his life story and the lessons that he learned from it that he now wants to share with others. He's had a pretty interesting life, including having a troubled relationship with his father, as well as growing up in different cultures where he was exposed to a lot of different things, discovering his career passion later in life, and then some. The problem is that he doesn't just write about himself. First of all, he writes a fair bit about his marriage to my mother. For some context there, they had a pretty unhappy marriage. They're both good people, and no one was awful or really hurtful in any kind of way, if you know what I mean. They were just 2 people who should not have gotten married. About 6 years ago, after 30 years of an unhealthy marriage, they finally separated, which was initiated by my father. My mother was very opposed to this. Divorce proceedings are still ongoing, which is another story in and of itself, and have been pretty contentious. My dad has a serious partner who he's been living with for the past few years. Anyway, as I said, there is stuff in the book about my mother and their marriage that is pretty personal, including details about specific conflicts that they had. He does not hold back talking about how unhappy he was, how misunderstood and disconnected he felt with my mom, and how he finally got the courage to leave. He also writes about my older brother, who has developmental disabilities, which have been hard for the whole family. My dad writes about my brother's history and says that for years, he viewed my brother as a burden and an albatross before coming to a place of greater acceptance and understanding. He also writes about the mental health difficulties my sister and I both went through in our teenage years. All of this is framed as part of his personal journey, all the things he overcome in his own way to find greater peace and happiness. The book was not a surprise. I've been aware of him writing it for the last couple of years, and I know it's been a very emotional experience for him, especially when it comes to writing about stuff in his childhood and stuff like that. I just thought he would be more circumspect writing about things like his marriage. My mother is aware of the book, though she has not read it, and if possible, I would like to keep her from ever reading it, because I know it would humiliate and devastate her. He never reached out to tell her he was writing about her, or even ask her permission or consent. He also did not ask my older brother, who despite his disabilities, is very verbal and quite intelligent in many ways, so it's not like he would have been impossible to communicate and have some kind of discussion or understanding. But he didn't even do that. I just feel so hurt, I feel so anxious, and honestly, I'm pretty angry about the whole situation. I get that writing this book is part of his own healing journey, and I respect that, but the fact that all of this is now published in a book for the world to read feels very, very surreal. He has the right to tell his truth, but other people exist too, you know? My sister and I are debating whether or not to confront him about this, as well as the best way to do this. The complicating matter involved in this is that I will actually be staying with my dad and his partner over the summer, because my current lease is up at the end of May, and my new apartment doesn't start until September 1st. Their place is also close to my work, and they both travel a lot, so it made the most sense to stay there. I am simply worried about causing conflict that will make that situation awkward. I love my dad, and we generally do get along well, though I wouldn't say we are super close. I guess my question is, do I have a right to be upset here or not? And what is the best way to handle this? What should I do? Honestly, the way your dad published all these dirty secrets about your family is just disgusting. If he wanted to have some kind of personal healing journey, he could have kept a diary. He could have even published this anonymously, but he honestly did this because he wants the recognition. He wants everyone to admire him for surviving his struggles. That's the most important thing here, not anyone else's feelings or keeping relationships strong. He clearly just wanted to burn bridges, and you definitely got caught in the crossfire. Personally, I would be very upset about this. If someone aired my dirty laundry and my family's dirty laundry in a book and then published it to the world, disguised as some kind of like self-healing situation, I would be furious with him. I think with all the things you've described in this post, I'm personally very surprised that you're even wasting your time staying with him. And in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, it might seem a little dark, but I wouldn't say anything to him until after I'm out of that house. I would wait until I'm in my new apartment on September 1st, and then I would tell him exactly what's up. I would say that what you did is disgusting, you've betrayed the trust of me and everybody in the family, and I will never forgive you of that situation. That's how I would feel. I'm a personal big advocate of keeping family troubles in the family, and not airing dirty laundry just for the sake of getting some recognition, which is exactly what your dad did. And it's crazy that he framed your mental health struggles as part of his own personal journey. I mean, what is he talking about? Your dad sounds incredibly toxic, and seriously, this is unacceptable. So if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would tell him exactly how I feel. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. If you were in this situation and your family member had aired your dirty laundry out to the world and publicly published it in a book, what would you do in that kind of situation? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. My entitled Karen of a coworker intentionally gives me low scores on my work just to try and prevent me from getting any kind of bonus. And after dealing with this for months, me and the rest of my coworkers file over 200 complaints, basically stating that she is rigging the system and trying to get us all in trouble. And as a result, this entitled Karen got fired, and the morale of my group instantly went up. And I've never been more satisfied with this type of revenge in my life. Here's what happened. So for a bit of context, I have been working in this health insurance company for the past 3 years. I recently took another position with better hours and better pay, but this time it was to coordinate appointments with doctors and specialists. My metrics were always great, and the reason I was selected for the new position was due to my metrics and all the accomplishments I had. This has been brewing since October of 2022. We used to have a coworker who we will call Karen for the sake of anonymity. This entitled Karen is the old lady lady that thinks she knows it all, and everything she says is right, and she often blames everything on someone else, which is just your typical Karen activity. The first time I interacted with her was back in October, when I messaged her via our work chat because she messed up prior authorization for a patient, and the doctor's office was calling to have the person that created the authorization fix the issue. So I said to her, "Hi, good morning. I have the doctor's office calling requesting to speak with you in regards to a prior authorization that looks incomplete." This entitled Karen immediately has an attitude with me. She says, "And you couldn't help them? This is a call center. You're supposed to help. And I don't even know who the doctor is. Please." I said to him, "You're correct that this is a call center. However, you created the authorization. And as you know, I cannot fix authorizations that were not created by me. And also, they will like to speak with you specifically." And with that, I provided her the patient's number as well as the medical doctor's office phone number. She says, "Well, I'm not available to talk to them, so I can't do it." So I just said to her, "Okay." I went back to the call and I specifically told the doctor's office what she had said, including the fact that she's not available to talk, but hopefully she will call them back to fix the issue. I also sent a direct message to my supervisor with a screenshot of our conversation, and I simply said to them that this is unprofessional, especially in an environment like ours. Fast forward to the start of the year, and the entitled Karen took a position in our quality assurance department due to them being understaffed. Now, I used to work in that department, and I knew the ins and outs, and I knew that she would be assigned to our department since she already had experience. Now, for some further context, our quality assurance gives us scores out of 100, and if we miss something, we get points deducted. And in January, I got my first bad score in almost 3 years in the company. I received a 56. I was literally astonished because it is the first time I've ever had a bad score, but I also wanted to make sure that this score was correct. Our company gives us the choice to listen to our calls just to be sure that the quality agent didn't make some kind of mistake. I listened to my call and I did everything right. I completed the information, I provided good service, and I asked if the patient needed assistance with anything else and provided the closing script. On the quality note, it was stated that I didn't offer any help and that I missed all these other things. I sent it to my supervisor and he stated that when I offered the closing script, the patient asked me something and I replied and disconnected the call. But I said to them, "Okay," I still said the closing script, and his question and my answer lasted literally 5 seconds. My supervisor still went to this entitled Karen and managed to fix the score to a 95% because she felt like I didn't provide a survey. If someone has worked in a call center, you know that metrics are everything, and one bad thing will quickly not get your monthly bonuses, and on top of that, we get our butts handed to us by the management team because, well, if we don't achieve the metrics, we don't get bonuses. I took screenshots of our conversation and I saved it on a file. I then sent it to my personal email since I know our IT department is known for deleting anything that is not working in the system or appropriate. Fast forward to April 18th, and I had received several scores ranging from 85 to 80% and only one 100% score. The 100% score is something that I received because the entitled Karen was the one who audited my call, and the other person found everything fine, but the 85% looked really fishy since the first thing you see is the patient's name. So I just quickly remembered the call because the person was funny and I enjoyed the call. I listened to the call and of course I did everything perfectly. However, Karen put on the system that she's deducted 10 points for not telling the patient that he had a copay for the visit and another 5 points for extending the call. I mean, what does that even mean? I contacted my supervisor and I let him know of what had happened. However, I didn't receive a response. I was so confused. I sent a message to a coworker who told me that they have been having the same issue with this entitled Karen who has been giving inaccurate audits, and the department has not been achieving their monthly goal because of it. Since my supervisor didn't reply, I did what everyone else does when management doesn't reply. I messaged this entitled Karen, and I sent her a message that just said, "Hey, I have seen some inaccuracies in the audits, and I would like to know if you could recheck them since I listened to the calls and everything was done perfectly." The reply I received was her saying, "All audit scores are final and it cannot be appealed." Now, I knew that this was a lie since I worked with quality assurance before and I know it could be changed. I replied by saying, "You know I worked in that department for 1 year and I know it can be rechecked and reversed, right?" The entitled Karen said, "Your previous position is irrelevant in this matter. If you don't like the score, you can go ahead and submit a complaint to my supervisor." When she said that, I said, "Okay, have a good day," and I did exactly just that. And this is when my malicious compliance came in. Now, I didn't just create one formal complaint. I created one complaint for each time she scored me incorrectly, and not only that, but I also told my 19 coworkers what she said, and I advised them that if they would like their scores overturned and rechecked, they could send a complaint to her supervisor, but only send one complaint per bad score. Also, I told them that we don't just get one audit a month. No, we get audited 10 times per month. In the span of 24 hours, her supervisor must have received over 200 complaints from our department complaining about one entitled Karen. The first complaint was mine with the entitled Karen's conversation, saying that all decisions were final and she can't recheck or overturn any of them. And also her saying that we need to submit a complaint to her supervisor. Her supervisor sent a message saying that they will evaluate all the complaints as well as the scores, and we will be receiving a message. That was on Monday the 17th, and on Tuesday we didn't get any messages. Wednesday comes around and I couldn't go to work due to an illness, but on 4/20, I received a message from her supervisor stating that my scores have been reviewed and properly scored, and also stating that my supervisor will be under investigation because any complaint should be submitted to his manager, and he never submitted anything, and that the employee that had done this was terminated. The icing on the cake is that when I logged into our chat and I was looking at the entitled Karen's photo, I saw that she had no pictures, and instead of her name, it said unknown user. And now, because she is gone, the morale of the group is better, and I hope that we don't have any issues like this ever again. That Karen was so far out of line, it's not even funny. Like, seriously, she was intentionally giving you bad scores just because she had some kind of chip on her shoulder towards you and everybody else. And this was all over an issue that she literally started and something that she could have easily solved if she was just a little bit nicer. So honestly, have fun in the unemployment line. People like that are so miserable to deal with, and I'm so glad to hear that the original poster got some serious revenge. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My husband is absolutely convinced that I am cheating, and despite taking so many precautions to prove to him that no, I am not cheating, there's no way I could do that, he still doesn't believe me, and I seriously don't know what to do. So my husband and I have been together for about 6 years. The last couple of months, my husband has been really skeptical of me. He keeps accusing me of doing things behind his back, stating that I've been cheating on him, even though I would never do that. I work from home and I leave our home maybe once a week for groceries or just other random chores. Other than that, I don't do much. I'm either working or laying in bed on my phone, waiting for him to come home. He has full access to my phone if he ever asks, and we have security cameras in our home, so he can see what I'm doing throughout the day, and he would be able to see exactly who's over here if I ever did bring somebody over, and we would be able to talk about it if he had questions. But for some reason, he has it in his head that I'm hiding something. I have never given him any reason to believe I would do that. I even go out of my way to avoid speaking to other men. If he comes up to me while I'm texting somebody, I allow him to read what I'm saying. If I'm on a call, I tell him exactly who I'm with. If I'm going somewhere, we have each other's locations through the Life 360 app, so he can see where I've been. This morning while I was working, I caught him trying to set up a hidden camera in our closet. I guess he wanted to see if he could catch me doing something, and when I asked him, he just blew up on me. He started yelling at me, but then actually refused to talk about what was wrong. I just don't get it. He was never like this. It's just this last month or so that he's been acting crazy. I don't suspect that he's cheating, so I don't think he's acting out because of his own actions. I try to talk to him to see what I can do to ease his mind, but he won't let me or even open up to me. I just can't wrap my head around this situation, and I seriously don't know what to do. This is seriously awful. Like, this guy is basically saying, oh, you're not cheating on me? Prove to me that you're not cheating on me. Like, what does that even mean? How can you possibly go out of your way to show, hey, I'm still with you? Like, this is an impossible task, all because of some weird paranoia that he has. And this is not okay, and it's also not the original poster's fault. They literally work from home and there's cameras all over the place. Like, if he wanted to, he could probably clock everything that she does in a given day. And it really seems like no matter how hard you try to defend yourself, it will literally never be enough. He will always have some kind of issue with you, and he will always be like, no, you're cheating on me, I can tell. Even though you've never left the house all day because you've been working. Like, this guy sounds crazy. He sounds delusional, and it sounds like he might need to see like a doctor. And I know you said, oh, well, I don't think he's cheating on me, but you know what? A lot of times people like this, when they start accusing their partner out of nowhere, like, hey, you're cheating, not me, they're clearly projecting, and his paranoia is just off the charts. So if I was in your shoes and I was being accused of cheating and all these other baseless accusations were being thrown my away, I would absolutely not take that. I would say something to him and tell him that he needs to pump his brakes. The way he's acting is really awful, and it's not fair for you in the slightest, especially because you haven't done anything wrong. I mean, you've taken every step necessary just to give him peace of mind. I mean, what else can you possibly do to prove that you're not cheating, besides maybe spending every day with him at his job and just sit in the corner and watch him work? But even then, he'll probably come up with a reason as to why you're supposedly cheating. So hopefully some kind of conversation or some kind of solution can happen between the two of you. This is not normal behavior, and this is honestly, in my opinion, only going to cause friction between the two of you. My husband hid a relationship that he had with his new female coworker, and he did this for months, and I seriously am so upset and I really don't know what to do. So I found out that my husband has a female coworker that he's worked with for months when our mutual friend brought it up while at our house. I didn't think much of it at the time, just surprised that he never brought it up, as we talk about his work frequently. Later that evening, I asked about her, and he was very vague and said that all the girls who work there are lesbians. I said that's not what I was asking, and I was curious why he never brought her up before, but he responded by saying that it just never came up. So I asked to see her, and I went to my Facebook page to look her up, and when he sat up, he said to me, I'll look her up, which I didn't pay much attention to at the time, but it is important to note. I looked at her profile and I saw that she was in a relationship with a man, and then he proceeded to tell me that she recently got divorced and she has 2 kids. So I said to him, so you knew that she wasn't a lesbian. Why would you say that? Also, while looking at her profile and speaking with him, he started to breathe really heavily, like he had just run a marathon, but we were literally just sitting on the couch. I asked if he was okay because he seems really nervous about something. He then said that I was frustrating him, but he has never acted like that before when he was frustrated. He also told me about how they spoke of me, and she even asked her boyfriend about me, but she never came up when he was just speaking with me. A few days later, I felt like he was hiding something, so after a little bit of digging, I found out that they were Facebook friends at one point, and that's when he finally confessed to her sending him a Facebook request, to which he accepted, but he deleted her right before showing me her profile, which is why he said he was acting funny. But it was days of me asking him to just be honest and feeling like he was hiding something from me before I finally took it into my own hands. I even sat him down and said, I know you're hiding something. Please just be honest with me. And he said that there's nothing. So you can see where my trust was kind of broken in pieces at that point. I'm really having a hard time forgiving him and forgetting about this. He was acting like a cheating husband. He said he deleted her because he knew it would upset me. I asked him why he would accept it in the first place if he thought it would upset me, and he said that he just didn't know. I know, statistically speaking, that men are more likely to cheat when women are postpartum or when there's a life change or a financial issue of some kind. And right now, we are currently having a trifecta. I just can't seem to get it out of my head that there's something going on that he's not telling me. His main argument is to state that he would never have time to cheat on me. Like, okay, that's reassuring. He's also made a few comments lately about my postpartum body, and his comments are just meant as jokes, as he put it, and that he didn't mean it in any kind of way. I keep asking him if there's more, but I really just don't believe him when he says no, because that's what he said the first time. Also, as a side note, this other lady recently broke up with her boyfriend, and when I brought it up, he was smiling and said, oh, she did? I said to him, why are you smiling about it? And he said, it's because I give him a hard time and he thinks it's funny. This is all so very frustrating and I seriously don't know what to do. I like how he said, oh, I just deleted her right away because I knew it would upset you. Well, if this guy knew this was going to upset you, he would not have accepted her in the first place. He would have said, sorry, but I'm in a relationship and I'm married and I'm not accepting friend requests from people from work. Or even just talking to his wife about it and being like, hey, I have this new female coworker that I really want to be friends with on Facebook. Are you cool with that? Let's talk about it. Instead, he decided to hide it, and now all these suspicions are coming up. So I don't blame the original poster for feeling the way that she does. So some serious changes really need to come from your husband, if anything ever is to come from this, because the way he's acting is unfair, and you definitely deserve a lot better than this kind of treatment. My sister and I just found out that we have a half-brother that my parents have known about my entire life, but have chosen to keep it a secret, and now I seriously don't know what to do. So my sister and I are in our mid-20s. Saturday, we noticed our parents were acting weird, and after pressing them, they very emotionally and dramatically revealed that my dad has a son that is 8 years older than me. He was 18 and the girl was 16 years old. They had broken up prior due to teenager reasons, and then she showed up. She said she was pregnant and didn't want my dad to be involved at all. He told my mom about the kid when they got together, but he wasn't really a factor in their lives other than child support payments that started up when the mom applied for government assistance. I even think that a DNA test was done then. Anyways, this guy who is my brother contacted my dad Friday and expressed a desire for a relationship. So that's what led to my parents telling my sister and I about this. I feel like if this didn't happen, we wouldn't have found out unless this guy showed up at my dad's funeral, whenever that would have happened later down the line. So this was only revealed to us out of necessity. I don't know how I feel or how I am feeling. Sunday when I found out, I straight up disassociated. I have a lot of mental health problems, and I guess my brain just couldn't handle it. Yesterday though, I just found myself getting angrier and angrier at my parents. They have lied, at least by omission, and they've done this my whole life. I have straight up asked and made jokes to my dad about him having other kids before, and he just blew it off and acted like nothing was wrong. I have made comments about how I wished I had a brother and how amazing that would be, and they just sat there knowing that I do have a brother somewhere out there in the world. I have made jokes about how my dad didn't have sons, so my sister is the boy he never had, and she did like stereotypical boy stuff growing up, and they just sat there with straight faces. I feel weirdly humiliated when I think about all the times that this happened, and my mom is really upset about the situation and won't explain why. I don't really get why she is upset. She knew about this child, and logically you would have to accept that him wanting a relationship as well as reaching out was bound to happen sooner or later. She hasn't explained her feelings or thought process, so I am trying not to judge her for being upset right now, but I just don't understand. And then there's my dad. I am having a hard time with the fact that he has a grown-up son that he's never tried to have a relationship with. He tried to explain it as the mom asked him to not be involved, and he didn't want to rock the boat and cause problems, and then later on didn't want to cause problems for the family. He said he made the choices he thought were best for the most people. I'm trying to understand, but I honestly can't. I don't think any of this is right. Even if they thought keeping this a secret was the best choice, I think it was objectively wrong and detrimental to every child involved in this. I am upset and I don't know what to do or say. I had a great relationship with my parents before this. We see each other constantly, we talk and lean on each other, we have fun together. I have a close family, and now I am just so blindingly angry I don't know how to get past this. I want to, but I don't know how or if I can. I see my therapist tomorrow. I can't even start to think about potentially having a relationship with my brother, even if he wants to right now, because I am too emotional, and that's a scary concept too. I guess my questions are, how do I go on with my parents when I am so angry and feel like any trust between us is shattered? I don't even feel like being around them. How do I deal with my dad being a great dad to me and my sister and a non-parent to this other kid? How do I go about starting a relationship with my brother? Aside from all the lost years, he's in a different life stage than me, and he has a wife and kids. What should I do? I first want to say that I don't blame your dad for not saying anything. This was clearly a stage of his life that he didn't want to bring into your life. And you know what? The mom made it very clear. She did not want him involved in this process. She didn't want him to be a father. She didn't want him to be involved in his life at all. So I don't blame him for saying, all right, I'm just not going to rock the boat. I'll just let this go. Like, what do you think actually happened here? Do you think they kept this secret from you just to humiliate you? Or were they trying to protect their family in the best way that they could? This seemed like a really dumb mistake that he made as a teenager, and clearly he was paying for this all the way up until this guy turned 18. Like, he didn't do this just to try and humiliate you or hurt your feelings. So with that in mind, I don't think this is so black and white. There's a lot of nuance and a lot of gray area here. From the sounds of it, he was just trying to respect her wishes and thought that was the right thing to do at the time. I mean, he was only 18 years old when she got pregnant. It literally had nothing to do with you at all. You weren't even in the picture, neither was your mom. And only then, when he's a little bit older and he gets with your mom and has a steady, healthy relationship, only then does he think, oh, maybe I should pop into his life. But how would that disrupt his life negatively? How will this affect his pregnant wife and his daughters? I mean, does this surprise brother still even want him around? Does the mom want him around? He probably thought about all of this and then some. So from my perspective, and in my opinion, he probably kept this a secret just as that, a family secret. And he probably did that just to try and protect you as best as he could. Your father, from the sounds of it, tried to respect all parties involved. And while I can't understand why you would be upset about him keeping the secret, I think it's absolutely irrational to think that you know every secret that your parents keep from you. Like, there's probably a lot of sketchy things that go on that you have no idea about. Stuff that's going on in the peripherals that you completely miss and just don't know about. So I just wouldn't be so hard on your family. They were not trying to trick you, they were not trying to humiliate you, and they didn't do this simply because of you. This happened well before you were born, and in my opinion, I think you need to cut them a little bit of slack. But that's just my opinion. What's your opinion? If you were in this situation, how would you handle finding out that you have a half-brother? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.